Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Wednesday night. The feeling's right. You know what that means. Time for the Mark Order Podcast here on the Shining Wizards Network. Oh, man. Let's see. Yeah, Money here. Ryan's with me.
Hello there.
Hello, Rob Humphrey in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Man, what an eventful week it's been. Huh, Ryan?
It has been eventful, has it?
It has been eventful.
Okay.
It has. There's been a lot going on. So right now it's the 2 live crew. That's 2 for me and 2 for you. Ryan and AntMoney. So we don't know. Kate was supposed to join us. She wasn't feeling great, but she was going to try to join us. So we'll see. She might jump in. She might not. Stay tuned and find out. Also, we'll see if Millionaire Matt decides to jump in and join us again.
There are reports he's trying.
He always tries. That's all I could tell you. Is he always tries. He's out tooling around, as he said. I mean, he's always tooling around somewhere, but anyway. So Ryan, have you been?
I'm good. You know, apparently an eventful week. How are you?
Been good. Been good. I mean, it has been an eventful week in the world of sports, Ryan.
Has it?
It has. It has.
Oh yeah,
we had a big game a couple
forgot.
of days ago. Well, good for you. Probably so many others have forgotten as well. Ryan, we got to talk about it.
You can. I'm very tough. Like, I know people want to like rag on me for it. I'm very tough for that because I just don't care once it's over.
No. I'm not trying to rag. I'm not ragging. I'm seriously trying to get your input because you're closest to ground zero in Philadelphia. Did everybody behave themselves?
As far as I know, yes. I mean, I'm sure there's always some knuckleheads. It was a weird game. So I think that really made people feel like there was more disappointment this time around than like when they've lost in the Super Bowl previously, because when they won 5 years ago, they were the underdogs. They shouldn't have won. This time people are like, they should have won. And truthfully, through most of that game, probably should have won. But a stupid fumble and then some bad defense, turf that's just, but I can't, like, the fumble was legit.
Blame that, man.
No, I'm not blaming anything. The fumble was legit.
Yeah,
so
that was
the bad defense is just bad defense.
Yeah,
the turf was both teams, but it was. Let me tell you something. As just a fan of football, how the fuck does that happen?
I mean, that's the NFL, baby. It's just poor planning.
It's not a reason the Eagles lost because both teams had to play on it. So unless you're going to break a news story where like breaking, the Kansas City Chiefs knew to have special like cleats made or something like that, which I'm making that up. There's no, both teams have to do it. It's just how your biggest game of the year, and that's what you give us for a field.
Listen, I agree with you, but wait, I don't want to cut you off here. Go ahead. Let's hear this point. Go ahead.
The call at the end. It's 2 things. Well, 3 actually. One, I don't like those calls in football to begin with. So, like, from a personal standpoint, it's just like, ugh, I'm kind of a let it play a little bit more guy. And I feel that way for both. Like when the the Eagles get the benefit of those calls. Like it's like hockey. Like to me, like the in hockey the delay of game when the puck goes over the glass or whatever,
Hmm.
and like just stupid penalties like that where like that didn't really affect anything. You kind of could have let that go. I don't know how you call it at that point in the game. Like the ball was overthrown, so
No.
that's why I don't think you call it. Like I think
Well, they haven't really been calling a lot of those penalties back for uncatchable, right? I don't disagree with you. I'll say this. I don't disagree with you. You've let them play almost the whole game. You can't affect the referee can't let the outcome of the game be affected by their call. You just can't insert yourself into the game at that point. But I will say this, Ryan. He grabbed him twice on that play. He grabbed him once off the line and then
which
once
is
down the
legal.
field.
Off the line's still legal.
You can't hold him.
You know, debatable if you call that holding, but again,
He grabbed his jersey.
which watch every defensive play in every football game that happens all the time. It's the
Listen.
second one that they really called it on because that was like the egregious one or whatever. My argument being that ball was so overthrown. You're down like there if that ball was right there and that half a step that he lost because of the grab cost the catch, I'd be like 100% legitimate. He wasn't catching that thing whether he was defended or not. So again, I get it. He did. So if you want to go by the letter of the law, I'm not going to sit here and be like they were robbed because it doesn't come down to one play. There were mistakes along the way that if they had not made them, they win that game. I just don't like that.
The one thing though, I mean, that call or not, Ryan, like they would have kicked the field goal and then they would have had to play defense. They were still at a point in the field where they could have the outcome could have been the same. The bigger thing to me is because this was really one of the only complete football games I actually watched all year. I haven't been bashful to say I don't really watch a lot of football, but you can't give up like 21 points in the second half, after holding them to 14, like unanswered almost. You know what I mean? Like that's
why I
the
don't
egregious
care.
part.
That's why I'm like not sitting here saying they were robbed because you don't get robbed if you do other things right. You can get robbed in hockey if you do other things, even if you do everything right, because you could be in a nothing game and get robbed. You can't get robbed in football and do nothing and do other things right because it's just not possible. That being said, the Eagles were moving just as easily as Kansas City was down the field. I would not have with a minute 40 left and 2 timeouts, they could have gotten into field goal range pretty easily. And
yeah,
again, the only reason that's not even a what if to me is because you just saw them tied up. Like they were moving, but it is what it is. Like I said, my view on sports is if they had won, I'd be still celebrating. But if they lose, I get over it because I only watch to enjoy it. If I can't enjoy it, what the fuck's the point?
right.
I blame it all on the Flyers losing the cup in front of me. Once they lost the cup in front of me in person, I'm like, whatever. At this point, I can't see anything worse than that. And I just don't care.
It's not been a great Philly championship sports year so far. You had
it's weird because it's one of those things that if you tell me in retrospect or ahead of time that you're going to experience the World Series, the Super Bowl, and if you like the MLS, MLS, you won't win, but you'll get to experience them ahead of time and in a year from now, I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome. But in the moment, it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's tough. And to be honest, I think I said it. If I didn't say it on here, I said it definitely off the air when we were just bullshitting. I truly felt that the Super Bowl was going to be won by a team in the NFC. I really felt that all the talent was in the NFC. Whether it was going to be San Francisco or the Philadelphia Eagles, I really thought the NFC was going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, they probably should have. They outplayed them for most of that game. They just, that one really bad fumble for a touchdown, and then they fell for the same trick twice on defense, and I'm like, how do you fall for that twice?
Those passing touchdowns in the second half, the defense was nowhere to be seen on those passing touchdowns. I was just
Yeah,
like,
the
you got to be joking.
cornerback, I think it was a corner or the safety, whichever, fell for the same trick twice, which was a moving guy who then moved back. And I'm not one like I don't like I'm not an expert on football in the sense of like I don't see things develop ahead of time. And everything's easy when you're, looking at it from top down. But as the Eagles running on the first one, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be he's falling for it. Sure enough, the guy went, I'm like, you motherfucker, like just stay with him.
I think the other thing too is that bit you on both of those plays, and you sort of had to do it. Was I think if memory serves me correct, because it was days ago at this point. It seems like a lifetime. I think the defense doubled up on Kelsey on both of those plays in the green,
Yeah, and which
the red
I
zone.
wouldn't have done. I would have just one on one. I know, especially in the end zone when you're that close because he can't get that wide on you.
And if
So
he's
what is a
gonna
double?
beat you, he's gonna beat you. But
Yeah, I'd rather him beat me than what happened.
yeah,
I will say, and it impacted, I would think, Kansas City too, but it really pisses me off because it's one of the Eagles' greatest strengths. So again, this isn't me saying that this is where the turf really hurt the Eagles. Is the Eagles' front four are great at getting pressure without blitzes, but you watch they just slipping, and you're like, Jesus Christ,
I
like.
th- I think I don't know. Was there a sack during the whole game? I thought I read somewhere there were no
I don't
defensive
think
sacks.
they just couldn't. I mean, it affected both teams.
Yeah,
They just couldn't get to the quarterback because I mean they could make pressure, but they couldn't get there as quickly because they'd slide in the beginning. It's like, and that was the Eagles' big strength all year. It was like they could get in. I was like, Jesus Christ. But I mean, again, it is what it is.
I'll say.
Once they won their one, I don't feel especially don't feel as bad because at least I have my team have a ring.
Mhm. What did you feel about the halftime show with Rihanna?
Okay,
Seemed underwhelming, huh?
I don't really care about the halftime shows.
Here's what I just didn't understand. Who was who was um who was clamoring for Rihanna to come back?
Well, it's apparently her first live performance in 7 years or something. So they're like, hey,
Yeah.
and oh, cool, she's pregnant. But like, I'm gonna be honest. I don't see the appeal of watching any band live on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what was cool was those raising platforms. I've never seen anything like that. And actually when it came on TV, I turned to Mrs. Money and I said, "Oh, that's a, that's like augmented reality or something." And then when I saw wires, I was like, "Oh no, she's really up
And I
there."
think all the dancers and her were strapped in, which makes sense
Yeah,
because in my head I'm thinking there's not enough money in the world
that is an
to get
OSHA
me on the.
regulation, my friend. You can't be up there unstrapped.
She's Rihanna. She does whatever the fuck she wants, but there's not enough money. But again, it's not a knock on her. I don't know if you could put my favorite band at halftime and have me be like, "Oh, let me watch them live on TV in the middle of a football game."
Begs the question, Ryan, who is your favorite band?
Oh, this has been discussed before. It's Dave Matthews Band.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, I'm a Dave Matthews fan.
In a boy's dream. That's all I know.
It's
Well,
a
I'll tell you two
great
things that
live
I
show.
loved about. I have seen him hammered twice. Not my choice. I'll say this: two things that I love about the Super Bowl. One, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy than Sirianni, so I enjoyed that greatly. And two, we got some great Jackson Mahomes out of the Super Bowl victory.
I fucking hate that kid. Jesus
Who
Christ.
doesn't? But did you see the video of him doing the TikTok dance behind Patrick Mahomes' post game interview?
Oh, I did. I guess I can't understand. Like,
It's so amazing.
I guess I just can't understand. It's not you. You're not the one doing this. It's not like I get fans like celebrating, all, but he's not celebrating like someone who just watched his brother win the Super Bowl or a fan who just watched his team win the Super Bowl. He's celebrating like he's the one who just won the Super Bowl. It's like, but it's not you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, That's what makes it so fucking great.
The bittersweet thing about this whole thing is I love Andy Reid. So
Can we also talk about how did you watch when the game ended, did you keep it on? Did you watch any of the trophy stuff or anything like that?
no, not really. I mean, that's
So then did you hear about when they were giving the trophy out and when what's his face oh fuck.
yeah, I know. I heard about this. Who used to play for the Steelers?
Yeah. I can't Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw was he was calling for Andy Reid. He's like, "Andy Reid, where are you, big man? Waddle on up here." And then he said something about he basically called him fat and old in the same interview. He basically was like, "You're getting up there. You don't need to do this for another year, do you?" And then he's like, "Well, have a cheeseburger on us, Slim." Like, come
See,
on, man. The guy just won a Super Bowl.
so a couple things. We're gonna go down this list here.
Mhm.
One, again, I love Andy Reid. He's a Hall of Fame coach, so I'm glad he's padding that resume with 2 Super Bowls. Shame he could never do it for the Eagles, but he turned the franchise around and put us on the path to where we are now just by actually making us look acceptable. And he's had a tough life, like with this, what happened with his kids and all. Like, I just feel for the guy. The second thing, I'm about to say this as a fat man, so everyone can back off because this is coming as a fat man. It's not a big fucking deal. Stop making this a big fucking deal that he made fun of him. He's not fat phobic. It's a fat joke. Get over it.
Listen, I'm not angry at Terry Bradshaw.
No, I
Like
know you're not, but I'm
it's
seeing it online.
but it's the timing. It's like, come on, man. He
But I
just
think
literally took
don't
his
they know
team.
each other?
I don't know. It's still just not great to basically be like, waddle your fat ass up here, Lardo. Let's talk for a second if you can breathe.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know them in private. You don't. Maybe they know each other in private, and Andy makes those jokes, and that's just how they are. I just again online it became this fat phobia, fat. And I'm like, guys,
No, I don't think any of
fuck
that. I don't care
yeah,
about that shit.
and I can say that as a fat guy. I could be like, fuck that. Get over it. You know what? Andy Reid is fat. It's just the truth. He's slimmed down a
large.
little,
Yeah, he's a
but
large guy.
it's okay. And it's okay because he's a happy. Well, now, right now, he's a happy fat guy. He's a jolly old fat man, but in red with facial hair and
Mhm.
glasses. Oh my god. But no, I'm not.
Is there a concerned
Clearly not.
citizen who needs to talk about
Not tonight, but he might be putting a theory together.
it could be.
Oh my god,
Man.
his other color was green.
Red and green. Yeah, man. Think about it. Put it together. Chinese balloons, or are they? Andy Reid, fat guy,
A
facial
concerned
hair,
citizen
red.
is very upset that Chinese balloons were before. I mean, we're after.
Allegedly. We don't even know if they were
We're
Chinese balloons.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty sure on that one. But allegedly after, his appearance. But clearly I don't care that much. Like I said, I could talk about it. I could watch it. I don't watch a celebration because it's boring if it isn't your team. Like, what are you really watching?
I was just waiting for top level, next level chef to come on.
Yeah, I mean, I went upstairs, watched TV, got over it. But like I guess I don't understand the people who like let it break their heart. Guys, win or lose, you have to get it for work. Like, what are we doing here? I get up being upset in the
Yeah.
moment, but just it's okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah, everything will be fine.
And
Your
they have a
telephone poles
ring.
are still
This
greased.
isn't like 5 years ago where they didn't have a ring. You're like, they're never gonna win in my lifetime. You've seen it.
Yeah,
Hopefully you see it again, but like
hopefully not.
hopefully you see it more times than the Giants can ever hope for it.
Nah. As long as it's not the Cowboys, it's never going to be the Cowboys with Dak. And it's not the Eagles, and that's fine.
Did you hear the Cowboys did you hear Dak get booed?
Yes, that was so funny. And I don't know, I was at my sister's for the first portion of the game. It was her birthday, so we were there for her birthday, but she was like, well, it's a Super Bowl, so we'll watch the game a little bit too. So yes, and I thought that was hilarious. And somebody was like, oh, that's so mean. I was like, he's a Cowboy. Most of this crowd seems to be from Philly. It tracks.
I mean, he was laughing. He knew what it was. It wasn't like a "we actually hate you, boo." It was
Yeah.
and that crowd was heavy Philly. Holy shit.
They were very loud. They certainly were. And I also enjoyed, they turned up like the music, the house music when he started talking and he was getting booed. You could hear like the music bed get raised up and they turned the crowd mics down. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah,
It was
he
great.
was they should have expected that, but whatever.
Well, now you have hockey season to look forward to, right? The Flyers are in good shape.
Oh yeah. Wait, hold on. Let's pull up and see what place they're in.
Okay.
It's not playoffs, I can tell you that much.
Yep.
Let's pull it up while we're talking. So they they are currently in okay, so this I hate the way they do this now.
Hmm.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spot
Okay. In overall
in the east. Yeah, overall in the east. They
in the
are
Metro.
no, they're in the east. They're the 14th.
Oh, in the East. Sorry. That's right. Okay. Yep.
In the Metro, they're second to last.
Yep.
Um, they are 7 point. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I was looking through 8 points back
Oh, okay.
of the wild card.
Okay. Well, you're in good shape then. You're in great
Oh,
shape.
great! They're in such good shape that I got a out of the blue email from my Flyers people saying, "We're giving you the three games in April for free, and that'll just be a credit to your renewal."
Awesome. Look at that.
So they're in real good shape.
Listen, I mean, you're in good shape. Hopefully, you don't run into the third place Devils who have a 43-point cushion. Um, you'll be fine. You'll squeak in. It's all good.
Yeah, fucking hell. What I'm more concerned about is what pick we get, and the West has some really bad teams,
They certainly
and
do.
and that's going to kill the Flyers' ability to get a higher pick.
Oh, Ryan.
That's depressing. That's more depressing to me than the Eagles losing the Super Bowl.
Things are coming up, Ryan. Well, Ryan, I'm sorry that the Super Bowl didn't go your way. We were sort of pulling for you on the back end, although there was a nice text thread, I think, early that morning. I think Matt said he hoped somebody died in a fire. I
I think
think
the meteor hit it, I think, or something. Yeah.
that was me. I gave you the
Oh, that
meteor.
was you.
Yeah. I didn't like either of these teams. But I'll tell you this. Saturday I went with Mrs. Money to a concert. She was feeling much better over the weekend, so we had tickets to a concert she wanted to see. So we wound up heading out to the show, and she woke up the next morning, Super Bowl Sunday. She was just like, "Yeah, I got like a headache or something like that," and I was like, "Okay, well, take it easy." Maybe she, enjoyed herself a little bit at the show. So I said, just take it easy. We'll go to breakfast. We had some errands to do before we went to the party. So we did all that, went to the party. And because of all the kids, we were at my sister's at 3:00 and we left at 7. Like we didn't even stay for the game. You know what I mean? Like everybody was sort of out. We got home and she was like, I'm cold. And I was like, it is hot in this house. So unfortunately, Mrs. Money wasn't feeling that great Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday again. So Mrs. Money has been down for the count over the past couple days with a sinus infection.
Oof.
But what's great is that that Little Money was feeling much better. He went to school this week. He was out all last week, Ryan. I think I told you guys this off the air.
Yeah, I forgot. What did he have? I don't remember if we knew what he had.
So he recap a little context. He threw up Sunday night while Mrs. Money had run out to something she had to be at. And then he was home Monday. He threw up a couple times overnight. Home Monday, threw up a couple times Monday. And then, Tuesday he woke up, he still had like a fever and stuff. So went to the doctor. They found out he had an ear infection and something
That's
viral
bad.
because he was throwing up and he had some diarrhea. Poor kid. So he wound up getting better through the week. He had some antibiotics. He went back to school Monday. He's been at school all week. So that's been good. And so tonight he was saying he felt tired. And so it was 7:00 and I was like, yes, he's going to bed early. This will be great. But he fought it and he stayed up and, played Nintendo or whatever till his normal bedtime around 8:00. So we start this process, Ryan, around like 7:45 because it's usually like, well, now I got to go to the bathroom. And it's like, it's 8:15, pal. Like, go to bed, or it takes him 15 minutes to brush his teeth because he's just dragging his feet, So he had his last antibiotics to take tonight. So it's 7:45. And Mrs. Money's still recovering, but she's in the kitchen. She says, I got your medicine. Come finish. This is it. Last medicine. And so he gets off the couch and he goes to me, my stomach hurts. And of course, I'm like, get in the kitchen and take your medicine. He's like, all right. So he goes in the kitchen and he goes to Mrs. Money. My stomach really hurts, Mom. And she goes, come on, you take your medicine. I'll take my medicine. We'll take it together. All right, cool. And he picks up his cup and he goes, my stomach really hurts. And she's just like, 1, 2, 3, down the hatch. Here we go. They take the medicine. She takes his little cup because he's finished. And she goes, see, I'm really glad we could take our medicine too. And that's all she gets out. And then Ryan, I'm in the other room, like cleaning some stuff up. I hear splat. That kid projectile vomited all over the kitchen floor.
Oh.
And then he's just like, I'm sorry. And Gina's like, it's okay. And I'm like, don't move because it's all over your feet and the floor. And then I hear splat again. Vomited the second time. And now I'm like, I gotta go get a mop. So I run downstairs to my mother-in-law and I say, do you have a mop? She's like, yes, I have a mop. I was like, okay. He threw up all over the kitchen. And she's like, okay. So she gives me the mop. And while I'm downstairs, I hear a third splat. So now 3 projectile vomits. And I go back upstairs and there's just a giant puddle of what was pizza, chicken nuggets, and a chocolate bar that he had for dinner. So needless to say, Ryan, I spent the opening of Dynamite helping Mrs. Money and my mother-in-law clean up a giant pile of puke. So I'll say this, when we start to talk about Dynamite, I'll run through what happened in the first match, but I have no opinion because I didn't see it.
Now the question is, how did he feel after puking?
It seemed to feel good. Some of the others in my house said, well, he felt a little warm. And I'm like, this kid is going to fucking school tomorrow. And
Well,
it's
also,
like,
he just puked. So there's a good chance he's just hot.
I think if you have to ask my opinion, the chocolate that he had for his treat tonight was a giant, like chocolate lollipop, the molded chocolate on a stick.
Yeah.
That like the school ran a fundraiser for Valentine's Day or whatever, so you get a lollipop, the chocolate, and it comes from mom or dad or whoever. He ate the whole fucking thing. So I think he honestly ate too much. Like, I think it was too much chocolate.
And he's also on antibiotics, which mess with your stomach.
Yes. Yeah,
that's a bad combo. Yeah, that's why I asked how he felt after, because to me that sounds like I'm on antibiotics. Once you described what he puked up, I ate a ton of shit, not shit, but food.
Yeah,
and then I had something I shouldn't have had. Well, and then I vomited it all out. Now I'm okay. The heat thing, I'm thinking that was just the force.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like 100%. I don't know about anyone else. When I vomit, if you're not sick, even like just for whatever reason, like you get hot. You're like, it's exertion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, he seemed fine. So yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, Ryan, I thought that was pretty eventful. Cleaning up puke leading into Dynamite. Now, Ryan, here's the other thing. the big holiday just happened. Did you have a nice Valentine's Day?
Uh, I did not do anything.
What?
Uh, yeah. Now the captain was apparently very busy.
I heard you
He
had
was
a hot
out
date.
with who?
I heard that Ryan had a date, not the captain.
The Ryan did not have a date.
I saw a picture. It looks sort of like this.
Oh no, rejected.
What?
Yeah, it's a cramped up,
Oh, you cramped
overuse.
up? Okay. For those not watching, you'll have to go to the YouTube. I'm not explaining it, but you
No,
probably get it. All right, Ryan. Well, that makes two of us. We kept it low key because Mrs. Money was not, is not feeling
yeah,
well.
that
So
makes. I was about to ask you, but you answered the question when you told your story that I don't think you guys are going out for a fancy dinner if she's sick.
no, but I did. And the other thing too is I have to go to my shoot job office once a week now. So it's Tuesday. So I had to trek in, to the city. And that's a 6 a.m. wake up call, leave the house at 6:30, and I'm not walking through the door until like between 7 and 7:30. So we weren't planning on doing anything. But I did say, like, whatever you want, you're not feeling well, so whatever you want for dinner, like, I'll order us
Here's
dinner,
a
I'll pick
big
it up.
spaghetti dinner.
No, we did do dinner. I can't remember where. Honestly, I can't remember where. It might have been something as low key as like Taco Bell, because I said to her, "What do you want since you're feeling good enough to eat?" And it was
Well,
two Mexican places she suggested. I think it was Taco Bell was the
I
winner.
know what her gift was for Valentine's Day.
What?
Tony Nese wrestled on Dark.
That's right. And I was asleep. She watched it in secrecy, I found out. She
Real
watched in
quick, just so
secrecy. Yeah, yeah.
Eric Fried, you are not invisible. I don't know if half your stuff, like we're seeing a bunch of comments. Obviously, haven't gotten to them yet because we're going over our weekend, but we can. I don't know. We can see you, so I don't know if other stuff is disappearing. We can't see. Can't really go through all that.
Yeah.
But you're not invisible. But yeah, so okay, so you guys did do a nice Taco Bell, romantic Taco Bell. You know,
And I picked up ice cream was requested, so I picked up some ice cream. Again, I was just like, you haven't been feeling well. So whatever you want, I'll pick it up. I'll do that. I didn't even go to the gym yesterday because I was so fucking tired. For some reason yesterday, I was exhausted. So I didn't go to the gym, so I got
well,
to go
you could be
make it up.
catching something, my friend.
No, 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 no. I'm believe it or not, Ryan, if I was going to catch something, it would have been caught already. Everybody in my house was sick last week. I was the only person who didn't get anything.
Weird how that happens.
I was taking vitamin C and taking it with emergency and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's like maybe I staved it off, but I feel pretty good. Don't jinx me, dude. Don't jinx me.
Oh, so we have some semi-breaking news here.
Semi breaking news. Oh,
Mark
hey.
Briscoe. This happened while we were chatting. So this is I didn't know if you saw it, so I figured I'd bring it
I
up.
didn't.
This is the picture that Tony Khan himself tweeted. Mark Briscoe is all elite.
Now, that's awesome, but refresh my memory. Weren't they technically signed to Ring of Honor, the
They
Briscoes?
were they were I don't think they could acknowledge it like that heavily before. So I think he's just trying to make up for like what he wasn't allowed to do.
Right.
Like because I have a feeling even though he's all elite, maybe he shows up on AEW a little more regularly, but clearly he's gonna be ROH bound, which if you're in your news section, if you got the numbers, we know the dates.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it in news
Yeah,
and notes. I got it all.
but I figure he's going to be ROH bound. But it's probably a nice little thing to be like, hey, I wish I could have done this beforehand. Sorry, it took tragedy because clearly this isn't Tony Khan's trying to make up for it. He wanted to do this all along. I mean, that's why he signed him
Yeah.
to a long-term contract to begin with. He loved the Briscoes. He just couldn't do anything for him until something sad happened, which really
Yeah.
sucks because Warner sucks. But
Yeah, and I think I think that's pretty much public knowledge. Is like they wanted them on TV. They wanted them on Dynamite and stuff like that, but Turner wouldn't allow it. And I said it when Jay died. I was like, it really fucking sucks that the guy had to die to get recognized on television, and for his brother to be allowed to wrestle on network television. Fucking stupid, but
It
good
really
for
is.
Mark Briscoe.
Yeah.
Good
So
for
I
him.
just thought I'd break that while we were chatting.
Excellent. That's a good one. That's a good one. So we covered
Mhm.
Valentine's Day. We covered the Super Bowl. Nothing else, right? Seriously, I'm not even joking.
No, I think they were that Super Bowl and Valentine's Day were the real things of the week, and then that just broke. So I think we get into Rampage.
Rompage. Yeah, we could talk about Rampage. Kicked off with Blackpool Combat Club defeating the Butcher, the Blade, and Kip Sabian. For those maybe who hadn't been watching, the Butcher with the new look, he shaved his head, looks menacing. He looks like he's in great shape.
He looks. I mean, he looks scary before. He looks scary now.
Yeah.
Um, this listen. I know it's his match tonight, but I'm just gonna say it now because we're talking about Kip Sabian.
Yep.
Kip Sabian came out with a cowboy hat tonight. I don't know about the rest of you. I was enjoying it.
You
He's
kipping a cowboy hat?
Kip in a cowboy hat. Listen, I love what I think Kip is perfect for Butcher and Blade as like a trio. He's crazy. They're crazy in a different way.
Yeah.
Plus, you have the Penelope Bunny, thing. That's to me as perfect as you can get as a group. So I'm loving what they're doing. The match was good, obviously. The Blackpool Combat Club versus the Butcher, the Blade in the Box was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It was a really nice opener. And I agree with you. I like that trio. I hope they actually stick them around. Asian Joe, shaved head looks menacing. Are we talking the Butcher or Ant? We're talking the Butcher, but I did shave my head, Ryan. I'm sure you could tell.
I noticed. I meant to comment on it, and then we got distracted.
It's okay. You could comment on it.
I like it. I like the look.
You
You
know,
told us you were doing it.
I did. I did say I was doing it, and what I forgot about is I thought I was doing it over the weekend. I did it Thursday night. All of a sudden, I was like, "You have an appointment? Oh fuck!" So, yeah, I could say this. It needed to happen. That's why I pulled the trigger on it, because it was like just should have done it like 6 months ago. So I did it, and it was. We'll go back to wrestling in a second here, Ryan. But it was totally like a total pampered experience. Like I didn't know what to expect. I literally thought they were just going to be like, "All right, sit down, like throw some shaving cream on, zip it off, and like, all right, see ya." But it was they buzzed my head down, then they did the hot towel on top of my head, rubbed in some whatever, some oils or lotions
They
or
put wax on it.
no wax, but they did the hot towel, then they with the brush and the lather lathered up my head. Did one pass over my head, hot towel, lathered up a second time, did a second pass over it, hot towel and a head massage, third pass over it with the lather and the razor, hot towel, did a little bit of shape up, cold towel on top of the head. It was a great experience. I loved it. It's gonna
Did
be
they
like my special thing to like, because now I clearly don't need a haircut like I used to. So like that'll be my like thing now. Like I'll get my head actually like shaved like once or twice a year.
did they host a funeral for the hair?
No, I mean I listen, I said to uh to my barberess, Christine, I said like when I saw her before Christmas, I was like, listen, next time I come in, like we're taking it all off. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, it's time. She was like, yeah, let's do it. So I booked it and I was like, new year, new me, baby. We're gonna be tough. We're gonna have a tough look. I like the way it looks.
I like it too. I'm just joking around, but no, I do. It works.
You know what helps, Ryan? I have a round head.
You do. You don't have like one of those weird egg heads or something like that. Because if you had like if your head was like long or like
Yeah,
up,
yeah, yeah.
it'd be weird. I hate to say it kind of also helped that it was needing to happen
Yeah,
because it always is a little weirder when someone has like a full head of hair and then they're bald because you're like, what the hell just happened?
right.
But when it's been like time, because I, obviously know plenty of people who've done it. Oh, he must have a new account. Sorry, I was about to yell at Eric Freeze for just following us. I'm like, how the hell are you just following us? But that's a whole different discussion. Trying to make sure our stuff gets put out. Yeah, no, I liked it. I liked the shave look. It's very Ant.
I'll also say this. Like as they were doing it, like like people would walk behind me and I'd feel the breeze and I'd be like, holy shit. Like, and then there wasn't much left up there, Ryan. So like I didn't think it would make that much of a difference. It has been incredibly like I'm much colder than I used to be.
You don't think about it. I mean, I don't keep my hair that long. I don't know if I could ever do the full bald though. I think it feel weird.
It was weird. It was certainly weird at first, but I'm kind of used to it. It's been about a week now. So, it's a whole different thing now. They're like, you got to make sure you like, lotion the top of your head and stuff so it doesn't get dry on you and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, I'll slap some lotion up there.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the thing too. I'm like, I don't know how dry my scalp is. I don't know if I want to embrace that.
Embrace it. Do it.
No, I don't need to. My hair keeps going. So Asian Joe is my point. Karrion Kross, when he shaved his head, then can grow a full head of hair. That back and forth is just weird. Like you got to embrace one and live with it.
This is going to be it. This is going to be it because
but
it
also
ain't
like
coming
again
back.
I hate saying it. Yours wasn't coming back. Like Karrion Kross grew a full head of hair. Like
yeah. And I don't know, like I don't think I ever would have done like the space toupee either. You know what I mean? Where they like take your hair and transplant it. Like I don't think I'd ever do anything like that. It's my time. Unfortunately, I got the wrong gene. On my mom's side of the family. So, Asian Joe, I shaved my head skin tight when I was 12. I learned I should never do that again because my head is not made for that life. Yeah, I'm telling you, Joe, it does help. I do have a nice round head.
And then I just have to say, because he's healing it up against Kate, and I'll embrace that tonight since she's not here. This show is so much better without the woman. She's big time on us again.
Yeah, didn't even tell us whether or not she was going to be here. So, yeah, whatever. All right, let's jump back to the wrestling. I'm sure nobody needs to continue to hear me talk about having my shaved head.
Listen, if they want to know about your shaved head, watch the YouTube.
Watch the YouTube. You can tweet me, I guess. I have no fucking clue. I don't get any fucking alerts. That's all I know. So if you reach out to me on like Twitter or something, this is just an FYI. If you reach out to me personally, I'll get back to you like 4 days later when I open Twitter and I see like, oh, somebody messaged me. Just an FYI. It's not me big time in anybody. I don't get fucking alerts. I don't even get alerts for the Mark Order account, Ryan. I get no alerts. But they're all on. That's what's annoying. They're all on and I don't get any.
That doesn't make sense because again, like I'll come back and there'll be like a ton of them, so you should have some.
But is that the only account that you have on your phone?
No, I have my personal that I don't use ever.
I have no idea then. I have no idea. I have every alert set to on. I have no idea. Anyway.
Like I could again, I clear them out for you. Like if you were to look and I had been on it, it'll wipe them clean. But
I go onto the Mark Order account to just do promo stuff. That's pretty much it. You're in control of all the other stuff.
Yeah. I'm the one with no life, no kid, no projectile vomit. That's the way it should be.
Lucky man. As far as lucky man for the projectile vomit.
Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. It just sounded funny.
So jumping back to Rampage, Darby Allin says he was keeping his word not to challenge Samoa Joe for the TNT title, but Darby did say he owes Ortiz a favor for having his back, and Sting said he and Darby are planning to go out in a blaze of glory. So Schlong, a lot of people saying, Sting has been very vocal about this being his last year in the ring. Maybe Sting is sort of starting to line up some sort of final match that he's going to be involved in.
Well, so let's think. How will it work? Darby, Sting, Ortiz
versus the House of Black.
Oh.
That's my guess.
Now the problem with that is, well, Sting would go out on his back, so that works.
Sting could go out on his back for sure. He's old school, so that doesn't.
Yeah, I'd rather just Sting versus Darby. Not, I mean, listen. I think they should turn Darby heel just for a character change. But even if you don't, just Sting versus Darby is like Sting going to Darby. It's time. You have to prove you could beat me, and I'll know you're good for me to walk away. And then Darby beats him, and that's Sting's last match. But it's because listen, it's weird because Sting wrestled from I forget when he started, late 80s to basically 2000, like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that area. Took some years off, whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's wrestling again. But it's weird because he's now going to be forever linked to Darby, at least in some way. Not permanently. It's not
Sure.
the only thing you're going to think about Sting, but so like it'd be kind of nice to have Darby be his like the guy he puts over on his way out.
I mean, maybe if they do Darby Sting Ortiz versus House of Black, maybe that's not it for Sting. You know what I mean? Like maybe that does somehow lead to him sort of feuding with Darby for one final match against Darby. You know what I mean? Like they could figure a way to work that into a story somehow.
That's true. They could have a couple. I just think that'd be like, to me, that's how I want him to go out. Lose to Darby, the guy you've been working with for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, I've enjoyed the Sting Darby pairing a lot. So it hasn't been a wasted 2 years. I think Sting is one of the old guys they've used really well. He looks great when they have him wrestle, but he doesn't wrestle a ton. And Darby's doing his thing. The problem they've ever had has never been with Sting and Darby. It's just been finding Darby, his role, which they still need to work on, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, and I feel like they've done a better job with Darby as of late. Like the matches that he's had recently haven't felt all the same, right? He hasn't felt like he's been fighting from underneath the whole time, and he's been putting on some really, really good matches. I just think they do need something sustained for him, but the rumors are that he had some time off because he was filming something and he probably needed to not rehab, but sort of re-heal himself a little bit. I mean, that the last string of like 4 weeks when he won the title to last week when he lost it, those matches were crazy.
Oh no, yeah. This is Darby's best served by wrestling a ton in insane matches, unfortunately. That's what he's best served by. Like, he's kind of the opposite of MJF in a lot of ways, where MJF is best served, and MJF is a fantastic wrestler. It's not an insult, it's his ability. But if you want MJF to be heel, your best bet is to not let him wrestle because he's so good. He'll get over that way. Darby's the opposite. You want Darby constantly wrestling because his talking is never going to be his strength. So he needs to be in that ring doing insane things, and that'll get him over. So these last when he had the belt and he had so many title defenses in such a short period of time, that's perfect. Didn't have it for a while, but he had a bunch, which is what I want the TNT to be anyway. It annoys me when it's not constantly defended. That belt should be constantly defended.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk about the TNT title when we get into Dynamite, but I think we're sort of going to see it line up to be something like that again, right? I think maybe they just gave it a break because Samoa Joe just got it, and we're sort of lining things up. So either way, Blaze of Glory, we'll see what happens with Sting. Starks is sick of the Jericho sneak attacks, and he wants to embarrass Chris and take him down several notches. So Ricky says that next week he wants a match against Daniel Garcia. So this sort of brings us back to last week's discussion, Slong, and we don't need to get deep on it again, but again, Starks wants Jericho. The reason is very thin, but it's Starks who wants Jericho. It's not Jericho who wants Starks. So he wants retribution now because of the numbers game. And again, if it's going to lead us to the match we're getting Friday, Starks versus Garcia, I'll take it because that's going to be a great match. I just really hope they don't schmoz it up.
No, they're going to schmoz it up, but
Of course they are.
This is one of those odd things where, like, I'm okay with the result, even though the way they got here has been completely illogical. I hate she's not here, so she won't hear me giving her credit. Kate's right.
Don't give her credit. No, don't.
Well, she's not here, so I don't have to give. She'll never listen. She won't listen.
Don't do it.
All right, that blonde bitch is right.
Boom.
It doesn't make sense that Starks won against Jericho and now suddenly he wants the rematch, unless they have Jericho do something awful to Starks to justify, and they haven't done that yet. They never really did that. They kind of just skipped that part. But
yeah,
I'm
and
okay
Action Andretti's sort of lost in the shuffle. That's the other sort of problem, right? Like he was part of this story and now he's sort of gone.
He's just the hanger on at this point, which I'm fine with because he kind of was made early on in it. Just give him a couple moments, like give him a match against Sammy Guevara, where he can go out and have because I think those two would have a fun match. Give him a Daniel Garcia match. Let him he doesn't have to win them. Just let him go out and have his matches. But you're right, because right now, if he's not wrestling, what is he doing? But they need to. They skipped the reason why, but I'm okay that it's continuing. I know people get annoyed, and I'm one of them. The Jericho feud seemed to go forever. This one hasn't yet, so I'm okay with it. Plus, I just want more Starks, so I can't really complain that he's continuing to be on my TV.
Yeah, I'm with you there because if you drop Starks out of this, what does he move on to? You know what I mean? Like everybody's sort of locked up into something. So that would be my fear is that if you just end this, where does Starks move to? You know what I mean? I'm sort of okay with this, but we're going to get that. Speaking of the JAS, the Impractical Jokers come out with Floyd as Jericho responded to them on the Impractical Jokers. And the Jokers mock the size of Jericho's bat, and they get a small bat chant started. And Jericho confronts them. He wants his bat back. And then he says he's not going to take it, but my guys are. And basically the JAS, put the boots to the Impractical Jokers. They choke him out. Someone gets bombed through somebody else on the table. I don't know the guy's names. I don't watch the show. I know one guy, but he wasn't on TV. So yeah, I don't know if that leads to anything, Schlong, but we've paid off the Impractical Jokers for corporate synergy.
I mean that's what that is. And I'm fine with it.
Sure.
It's a Rampage thing. Who cares? You don't want this on Dynamite, but Rampage is Rampage. I never get mad when WWE does this stuff. I'm not going to get mad that AEW's doing it.
And if ultimately, because I mean, listen, I don't enjoy the Impractical Jokers. I know a lot of people watch that show. So if it helps get people over to AEW, then I guess it's good, right? It's a huge show for the network.
It's good for two. Yeah, I mean, it's good that. Listen, TBS or Warner isn't putting the Impractical Jokers on Rampage to pop the rating on Rampage because it wasn't promoted enough. It wasn't a big enough big enough thing where that was going to all of a sudden bring in an extra 300,000 viewers. Like no one expected that. But they like the Rampage audience enough and the AEW audience enough that they want to tie the two together. And that's a good sign for AEW that Warner views them at that level.
Right. Yeah. It's all good in my book. Whatever. It's over. Dustin Rhodes cut a promo on Swerve saying he's not afraid of him or his thugs, and Swerve isn't going to tarnish the Rhodes name. He said he's coming for Swerve's blood and his soul. And that's when Parker Bordeaux and Trench show up and they start to brawl. So Rhodes is on the losing side of the numbers game. Swerve then says next week they'll have a match on Rampage. So at least the Swerve and Dustin Rhodes coming up this week. So that's fine. I mean, we all know Dustin's in the last year. He said the same thing. This is his last year in the ring and he's going to hang it up. So if we get Dustin and Swerve, that could be a fun match. We'll see what happens on Friday.
Dustin deserves to have a last, not a run, but a last series of matches, and Swerve should be on TV. So both things are a win for me.
And I mean, let's be real. I'm sure that he's getting to call who he would like to have a match with, right? So,
and he's gonna lose. So it's not like they're gonna on his way out, he's gonna win. This is perfect, and it makes Swerve look like a dick, which he's a heel. You want him to look like a dick.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm good with this.
Yeah, me
Ruby
too.
Soho defeats Marina Shafir, but the big news is that after the match, Saraya and Tony Storm come out onto the stage telling fans to shut up and to show them respect. So they walk down for a chat with Ruby, but Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter are able to attack them before they can get to the ring. So Ruby's sort of just watching from the ring. Ruby Soho is stuck in the middle of this sort of tug of war between the sort of the people coming into the company and the people who've been with the company, and it sets up the match that we got tonight against in the main event, Tony Storm versus Ruby Soho versus um, Britt Baker. So it was a nice setup to this match, and again, we're just seeing Ruby sort of stuck in the middle here. So it's continuing
In the
this story.
middle with you, stuck in the middle with Rube. Hey, so ho.
Oh boy.
Listen. It's making her a player again, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's totally fine, and we'll talk about that match in a few
Mhm.
minutes here. Mark Briscoe is interviewed, and he says that he's going to wrestle on Dynamite, but he gets cut off mid promo by Mark Sterling, who offers him his card, but Mark basically refuses his services, and then Sterling insults him for being a stupid chicken farmer who doesn't want to make any money. So Briscoe puts his hands on Mark, but that makes Josh Woods, who's the goods, get in his face. And they had a match set up for tonight. So we will talk about that match on Dynamite when we get into Dynamite. But that was that was a nice sort of setup just to get to this match. And we know that there's a little bit of Ring of Honor history between Woods and Mark Briscoe. So it was nice to have it set up this way. Also, Mark Briscoe is very funny in this interview.
Very funny. So there's a couple things
Yeah.
that and we'll speak about it again later, but I'll just since the interview is actually more relevant than anything. I like that they're not making his thing be Jay. You know,
Yep.
that would be disrespectful to me to be like, "Hey, you can be here, but only if you hammer home the series." And I like that they're letting him be the Mark Briscoe that he is and can be. And he can obviously he's going to work Jay into things, but on his terms, and it's not his character. Also, I would expect, and we'll say this in news and we'll say this in the match, but probably expect some more Ring of Honor heavy, not heavy, but expect a couple things over the next couple weeks that are definitely Ring of Honor leading. Since now we have
Sure.
some set dates, they're going to want to hype that up.
Sure, and that's also where his history is too, right? I mean, so it just sort of makes sense to have matches with guys that are a little more Ring of Honor centric.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then eventually they'll move him into something else, maybe that's more AEW focused, you know?
I they might, and truthfully though, I'd be okay. Like it's weird. Do you move him into AEW? You're gonna have to take the tag title off him unless they can think of a tag opponent that he tag partner that he approves of that fits and all. But you're gonna take the title off of him. Do you move him into AEW after like an initial ROH match and all, just to be like, listen, man, we'll get you away from all that. We'll make you so you're not trying to live up to that over there. Or do you have him exist in ROH like primarily and be one of their guys? Like because clearly the the Briscoes were going to be the team in ROH. Like that was going to be set up that they were
Yeah.
going to be. Now they're not obviously for very sad reason. But do you have him still continue on then as like the guy there? Not maybe the guy, but one of, or do you move him to AEW just to get him away from and everything? And there's no right answer. It's just there has to be thought in someone's brain. Like,
Sure.
what do we do?
Yeah, we all sort of sat and talked about it when Jay died. It's like, where do you go with those tag titles from here? Because they were clearly set up to go on a run with Ring of Honor and sort of, legitimize things essentially, right? I mean, 13-time Ring of Honor champions, you're going to hold the belts at the pay-per-view when they get to TV, all that kind of stuff. And now that's sort of out the window. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Mark. I agree with you. It's not all about Jay. He pulls Jay into some stuff, like we'll talk about the match tonight. they mentioned Jay and the Briscoes, and he's wearing a Jay shirt. Like that's fine, but they're not beating you over the head with it in interviews where all they're asking about is his brother and how he's doing and blah blah blah, right? Like it's about wrestling, and I'm sure that's what he wants it to be
Well,
about.
yeah, that's. I mean, listen, if he went to Tony Khan and said, "I want it to be all about Jay," then it should be all about Jay because that's, that's on him. But I don't think that's what he probably wants. I think that'd be disrespectful to him, disrespectful to Jay. Let him incorporate the sections he wants while at the same time.
You just muted yourself, I think, Ryan.
Wow, that was a very light touch.
It's
I
okay.
scratched my nose, bring my hand down, somehow touched it. But just let him incorporate the little parts he wants while letting
Yeah.
him be Mark Briscoe. Because Mark Briscoe is, and I say like intentionally, like obviously it's a character, so we're gonna say Mark Briscoe's a psychopath, and it's hilarious.
I tell this story. I told this story when Jay died. We were at one of the Ring of Honor final battles at the Hammerstein in New York City. And they were coming to the ring and somebody said something. And it might have been Mark. It could have been Jay. But they turned and he goes, "I will stab you, motherfucker." So dead serious. Gina turned to me and was like, "Holy shit." And I was like, "Yeah, they're fucking really good at what they do."
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, he's a psycho, and
yeah,
they'll lean into that a little
so
bit.
funny.
I mean, the whole thing where he hands him the card, he goes, "No, thank you, my good sir. I will not require your services today." Like,
It just
so funny.
and you're right. Using Woods and Smart Mark as like the first whatever, just to get this mini match over. Perfect.
Yeah, it was a good call. So we'll talk about that match in a few minutes here. Jungle Boy defeats Ryan Nemeth. Not really too much to say there, except that Brian Cage walked out to stare down Jungle Boy. That set the match up for tonight. Um, Ortiz cut a promo on Eddie Kingston saying he realized where he screwed up with Eddie, and he won't let him become a martyr for the House of Black. And ultimately, he's going to have Eddie's back. But if they have to fight it out, they will. So we still don't really know what's going on with Eddie and Ortiz. We're seeing this story sort of play out on Fridays. It looks like maybe they didn't bring it up tonight. We'll see what happens on Friday. Ortiz and Eddie, not really sure where they stand. Maybe at odds right now.
And apparently, I think it's also playing out on Twitter with Eddie because he's just been on something lately. It's been really funny.
Oh yeah, I saw some stuff about that. That's been good. We did get the video package about the main event, Orange Cassidy and Lee Moriarty, but Hangman Adam Page is interviewed by Renee, and he snaps at her for bringing up the fact that Mox beat him 2 out of 3. And Page swears that this isn't the end of the feud. And Kip Sabian interrupts and mocks him, so Page takes a swing and misses, and then he restrains himself and walks off. That set up the match that we got tonight. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But in the main event, Orange Cassidy does defeat Lee Moriarty to retain the All Atlantic Championship in what was a really good match. One of my favorite parts was obviously Stokely Hathaway is at ringside, and because his arm was injured against Hook, he was in a cast. And Danhausen, as he was starting to sort of get involved, Danhausen comes over to put a halt to it. He curses him and goes to punch him in the crotch, and Stokely blocks it with his cast, and Danhausen is in agony from hitting that cast. That was just one of my favorite points of that match. But again, good match. Cassidy and Lee Moriarty can go. The big news, though, Ryan, is after the match, Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Jay Lethal hit the ring, and they attack Danhausen and Orange Cassidy with the Golden Globe Award, and that's when the Best Friends try to make the save, but they're taken out by the Golden Globe as well. And so Jeff Jarrett is about to go for El Kabong to OC, but the Acclaimed come out and chase them off, and that sort of set the match up for tonight as well. So that's how the show ended. But Schlong, anything you want to add about Orange Cassidy and Lee Moriarty?
No, I think it was a lot of fun. I mean, Lee Moriarty is great. Orange Cassidy's awesome. So about what you'd expect, they can deliver. And the shenanigans I'm okay with because wrestling's a whole lot of different things. So funny shenanigans are needed every once in a while to keep things different.
Yep, for sure. And again, you know, we are sort of at a point where we're not sure what's going on with the tag titles. I mean, they gave us a sort of clearer picture of what's going to happen with the tag titles tonight, but you know, who knows? We'll see. The Acclaimed have a lot of anger right now, so they came to make the save. They had trouble with these guys as well. So anyway, that was Rampage, and the other news for people to note is that this Friday is Rampage. What are they calling it? Slam Dunk? I already forgot. But they're doing it at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, because of the All-Star Game festivities going on for the NBA on TNT. So it'll be on early 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you check out Rampage.
4 p.m. Pacific time. It's specifically at 4 p.m. on the West.
That's right. 4 p.m. Pacific. So yeah, check it out. And it seems like it might be a fun show. We are going to talk about Dynamite. And we are going to take a short break. And Ryan, I don't have new commercials yet, so we're still going to play the old ones. But I can tell you this. Next week, Ryan, it's a pretty big show for us. It's episode 100. We've done it. It's our centennial podcast. And then, I don't know, are you jacking off over there?
100.
Oh, all right. It looks like you're
100.
Yeah,
well, whatever.
You're giving a free release over there. So next week we'll have the new commercial block for a bunch of the new shows that are on the Shining Wizards Network. But for now, why don't you hear about some of the shows that might or might not continue to be part of the Shining Wizards Network? And we'll be right back to talk about Dynamite.
Everyone knows a lot of things can change in the span of 10 years. But when it comes to professional wrestling podcasting, one thing is still guaranteed. The Shining Wizards is the only place to get all the latest wrestling news, interviews with the greatest guests, and of course, tons of laughs in discussing the world of wrestling. The show is still available on Monday nights at 7 p.m. East on rantmradio.com and Rant Entertainment Media on the TuneIn app. And it's still available on all podcasting platforms. To check us out, head over to shiningwizards.com, where it's still wrestling talk and talk about wrestling.
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments.
Horns up, everyone. One on the Shining Wizards Network. Be sure every Friday to check out Radioactive Metal. Radioactive Metal is one of the longest running podcasts on the interweb. And every week we bring you a fistful of metal, including interviews with all your favorite artists, discuss all the metal news, and feature the best tunes on the air today. So grab a Lemmy, join your cool Uncle Snowy and co-host Aaron in the pit.
Your recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting from the current to the way back. Join the Impact player Phil Brea and the Portuguese man of war Choppy for the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Live every week on rantemradio.com. Get all our episodes over at iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Audio Boom, Google Play, ShiningWizardsNetwork.com, and TurnbuckleThrowbacks.com.
Are you tired of being told what to think and believe by Hollywood elites and politicians who just don't care about you?
Tired of not getting the truth when you watch the news?
Tired of trying to figure out what pronoun to use?
Tired of mob mentality when all you want to do is think for yourself and make up your own mind?
That's where we come in. This is Justin.
And Vince.
Your host of Inconclusive Breakdown.
We are a weekly anti-PC podcast bringing you entertainment and current event news without any spin.
If you want to truly stay informed on what's going on in the world, then give us a listen every Sunday, anywhere you get podcasts, at least till Zuckerberg and Twitter Jack deplatform us.
And as always, we're proud members of the Shining Wizards Network.
Tired of the PC police telling you what you can and cannot say? Want a show that travels back to the 80s and 90s, where the badass hosts have beaten down cancel culture on 3 separate occasions and carried on to gloat about it? Since 2013, The Midnight Jury is that show. Travel back to the malls and arcades, pop in your VHS, and join us where the 80s and 90s return from the dead. Conan, tell them where to find us.
WLWstudios.com, home of the Midnight Jury podcast hosted by Midnight Mike and Calvin Brody.
Also available on all major podcast platforms via the Shining Wizards Network, and join in the conversation on Twitter at Midnight Jury.
What's up, wrestling fans? You want something awesome? Check out Wrestling Night in Canada here on the Shining Wizards Network. We're 3 Canadian metalheads uniting for the love of pro wrestling. Every episode we go over all the latest news and special events with the odd unique interview as well. So grab a cold one and check out Wrestling Night in Canada, eh?
All right, we're back here on the Mark Order podcast. Before we jump into Dynamite, just a couple things. Make sure you're following us on our socials at Mark Order Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places, TikTok. And you could support us a couple different ways. If you'd like to support us by getting some free stickers, head over to our social channels. In the bio, there's a link tree, and you could click the button to get some free stickers. Just give us your name, your email, your full mailing address, and the country you live in, and we will send you out some stickers free of charge to anywhere in the world. We are big in the United States, Canada, Spain, and Ireland, apparently. So hit us
The
up
ancestors.
there.
It's the ancestors, you know.
Must be. And the other thing you could do if you'd like to support us and you want to spend some hard-earned dollars on us, just head over to our Pro Wrestling Tee store. We have that linked in our link tree. If you just want to go to Pro Wrestling Tees, you can search Mark Order Podcast, or you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/MarkOrderPod. And you can order one of our brand new shirts. We've got 4 designs. 2 of them are front prints. 2 of them are front and back print, double-sided. So if you'd like to help us by giving us some of your hard-earned dollars, we greatly appreciate it. We do make phone calls to say thank you. Ryan, I'm still behind because the weekend just didn't work out again. So I'm going to try to make some phone calls to a couple people that I owe them to weeks later. And
Why
if you
never said I'd do it.
Well, I'm doing it. It doesn't matter. I'm still doing it. There's no time limit on it. I'm still make the calls. And also, if anybody didn't do it during the Super Bowl, you messed up. They ran a flash sale at Pro Wrestling Tees. Could have gotten a few bucks off a t-shirt. So we'll keep you guys posted anytime they do flash sales and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about getting a shirt and you want to wait for a sale, totally fine. But check it out. We appreciate everybody who helps support us.
I suggest you
financially.
Buy multiple shirts. Buy the one that fits you now. Buy a smaller one in case you lose weight, and buy a bigger one in case you gain weight.
That's what I've done, Ryan. I've done that lately. Remember the Grand Slam outfit? I bought that one size. I bought the next size smaller and 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah, you know what? Even better. Buy 4 outfits. The one
Boom.
that fits you now, a size smaller, 2 sizes smaller, and then one bigger just in case you get hefty again.
I like it. I like it.
That's how everyone should do it.
Ryan, you've got your mind right. That's all I know.
I'm thinking.
And so now that your mind's right, let's talk about Dynamite. So tonight they were in Laredo, Texas, and we kicked off with our 4-on-4 tag match. It was Daddy Ass, Billy Gunn, Orange Cassidy, and the Acclaimed versus Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt. And Schlong, this is probably a good time to let everybody know, in case they didn't know, Jerry Jarrett died on the 14th at the age of 80 For those who really don't know about Jerry Jarrett, who is Jeff Jarrett's father, he was born in Nashville, and his mother started working for the NWA Mid-America territory that covered Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. And as she started to get more involved, Jerry got involved, and by the time he was 14, he was promoting shows. He worked as a referee and a wrestler in the 60s and 70s, held several regional NWA tag belts throughout his career, and never strayed far from the office. And in 77, broke away from the NWA to found the Continental Wrestling Association in Memphis. And that's where he and Jerry Lawler rose to fame, selling out the Mid-South Coliseum every week and airing a popular Saturday morning television show. During the CWA's heyday, they had a lot of established acts pass through, and Jarrett and Lawler helped acts like Hogan and Steve Austin rise to prominence. They were so successful in NWA Mid-America folded in 1981, ceding that territory to Jarrett, the King, and CWA. And then with the WWF expanding nationwide, Jarrett teamed up with World Class Championship Wrestling out of Texas to form the USWA, that's United States Wrestling Association, in 1989, which he wanted to take national himself, but WCCW pulled out of the partnership and USWA was forced to enter into a talent exchange with the WWF. So by 1995, with Memphis wrestling in the rear view, Jarrett sold his stake in the promotion to Lawler and another partner. And after spending the Monday Night War era as a WCW consultant, Jarrett got back to running his own promotion. That's when he and Jeff Jarrett launched TNA in 2002. They sold a controlling partnership or a controlling share to Panda Energy, owned by Dixie Carter's family. And Jerry left the company in 2005. That's pretty much when he left wrestling, and he focused on construction and television distribution businesses at that point. So he did have, have, some influence on the business overall, Schlong. For those who maybe don't, sort of know much about Jerry, he was heavily involved in the territories and, TNA and WF with some talent exchanges and stuff like that. So it is a passing of note. And I wasn't actually sure if Jeff was going to wrestle tonight, but Tony Khan did say on Busted Open that Jeff wanted to wrestle tonight and push forward. So I think there's also a poem out there that Jeff Jarrett put out there. I don't know. With a Whittier poem. I don't know. But just an FYI for those who don't know, Jerry Jarrett passed away yesterday. So back to the action tonight, Schlong. Again, didn't really see this match as I was mopping up vom, but Billy Gunn, Orange Cassidy, and the Acclaimed won by pinfall with Scissor Me Timbers from the Acclaimed on Sanjay Dutt. Post-match, there's a big group scissor that happened. So Schlong, why don't you tell me what you thought of this match? Because I should really figure out if I have to go back and watch this.
Well, let me ask you a question, Ant, before we begin.
Sure.
How many shenanigans do you think were in this match?
Oh, none whatsoever.
You'd be wrong, sir.
Oh, no.
It was just full of shenanigans. But again, I love shenanigans.
Okay.
That's a place with all the shit on the wall. And I highly enjoyed it. But your mileage will vary depending on how much you like shenanigans. Sanjay Dutt had on a dress shirt and tie with wrestling tights tucked in. It was amazing.
Awesome.
Orange Cassidy was there doing Orange Cassidy things. There was a moment where I actually really laughed at this. So they had Sanjay in position. It was the finisher of the match. They had Sanjay in position for the scissor, where Caster holds the guy's legs apart so Bowens could come and leg drop him. So first it was going to be Billy, and Billy got knocked over the rope. And then Orange comes in and knocks out Jarrett. And so Orange goes there and he's like, he's going to do it. And then he goes up and does his kicks So Sanjay's ass. It's just the stupidest thing I've
Oh
ever
my
seen
God.
of these and then he goes up like he's gonna do it and he gets knocked down. So eventually Bowens does it and that's how they win. But I just had to laugh because that image in my head of like the lightest kicks in the ass. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Caster in his rap, and I'm assuming he 100% cleared this with Jarrett. Did mention Jarrett's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Said I'm like sad, like your dad is a legend, but you're a douchebag or something like that. So that was kind of funny because again, I think he cleared it. And as we're talking, Paul Rudd is now aware of Orange Cassidy, which is hilarious since one is
nice.
based.
Okay.
Since Orange Cassidy based his character on Paul Rudd's Wet Hot American Summer character.
Yep.
But it's I'm trying to think. There's I will say this. I'm really starting to believe Satnam can't wrestle. And that's fine. And
what makes you say that? I'm only asking because I didn't see it. And we haven't seen a whole lot of Satnam, so it doesn't shock me.
That's why they protect the hell out of him in these matches. Like he does nothing. And it's beyond the point of like keeping him as a special attraction, nothing. Like just doesn't they try to avoid doing as much with him as possible, which is not a good sign based on how long he's been training. That he's and listen, I don't know how a guy that big can wrestle fully. You know, that's always the catch 22 with a lot of these guys. You know, he is about as big of a man height wise as I've ever seen in my life. But I'm starting to think that's the case.
And Schlong, trust me, if we ever go to like Atlantic City and we stay over again and he's there and you actually stand next to him, he's
I stood next to him.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did.
He was on the cruise. He was in the elevator with me.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I've never seen a man. I have never met Paul White in person, so I can't compare like how those two are together. But I've met some big dudes in my life. I don't think I've ever met a guy who's made me feel smaller. Like he is.
What's incredible, Schlong, to me is that he's one of the few guys that you see on television, and when you're in the same area as him or get to be next to him, like you were in the elevator and I was in a shop and he walked in, he's one of the few guys that you say he's bigger than I thought he was. Like in person, he's bigger. And also, he's one of the few wrestlers I can think of. You mentioned Paul White. Like you always say like, wow, Paul White's big. But then somebody stands next to him and you're like, he's big, but he's not like huge. Satnam is one of the few guys where everybody stands next to him like, Jesus Christ, he's big.
He's also proportionately built, which is very odd. You've seen in basketball players a lot where guys 7'2", like perfect. Anyone who's an old school Sixers fan, so not many probably listening. Sean Bradley is a perfect example of
Manute
Bol's a great example. They're lanky as a motherfucker. Like they look out of proportion. Satnam looks perfectly in proportion. He literally looks like you just took a 6-foot man and made him 7'2", like, and kept everything the same ratio. It's insane, and it makes him look that much bigger. So I can't imagine how difficult it is for him to wrestle. That being said, I don't think he can.
I also wonder if if he's been training with people like Paul White or some of the other bigger wrestlers who maybe can, give him tips on like, you're bigger than the average guy. Like here are things you could do to sort of help yourself out.
I mean, I guarantee they have.
You have to.
Like you have Paul White, you have Mark Henry there. Different heights, but like Mark Henry was so big. Like guys who could teach you how to be a power wrestler without it. He trained under Satnam has trained under like QT, who's trained some really good wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are just saving him for whatever, and they don't have anything to do with him yet, so they don't want to expose him too much until they're ready. But it does not. When he's in a match, is really obvious they're trying to get him out of the ring as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been in a position where he's wrestled anybody one-on-one. So that has to tell you something, right? And I mean, it's really like the other thing too, I think, and we've all sort of said it, it's like he's so big. Like, what do you do? What do you do with him?
Well, that does also come into play that AEW overall is a smaller company. All
Right.
their like their big guy, one of their quote unquote big guys is Wardlow. I've seen Wardlow in person. Muscles are massive. Height wise, not a big guy.
Right.
He like I hate to say it. I walk by him like I didn't recognize him at first because he had a loose shirt on, and you're like, I could walk by you and never think you're a pro wrestler. He's about 6'2" or whatever his height is. So you put Satnam in that ring against most of the AEW guys, and he's just so much bigger. It's almost like, how does he ever? It becomes a conundrum of how does he lose? Like he's almost too big to lose.
Right. Right. Yeah. At least the good well, again, I didn't see this tonight, but at least one of the things that I say is good is he looks like at least he can move around, and I don't mean like move like run, but like he can move around normally. Like, remember the Great Khali, like at a certain point couldn't like bend his knees, like he was walking stiff-legged.
Yeah, apparently Khali used to, and then his knees got all busted up and he couldn't. Satnam can move. He looks still like a basketball player, like he moves like a basketball player, which I do think comes into his being proportionate. I think that plays, like his body's meant to hold the weight it has and the size, but I just haven't seen him put together back-to-back wrestlers. However, the fact that he can move at least does provide me with some hope that if you put him in an interesting enough story, he could probably string enough together where you can make it work. He will never, I doubt he'll ever be, well, I don't think a 7'2" giant should ever give you, like a 20-minute match anyway. I don't think that's who they are.
Right.
But he could probably put together some interesting stuff. But as of right now, he's just not there yet. And Asian Joe's a good point. Big Bill is a little closer in height to Satnam. Big Bill, when he's around, he's not around that often. Though I have a feeling they would keep those too far apart anyway, because it does Satnam no favors to have Big Bill showing him up right now.
Right. Yeah. Big Bill can go.
Yeah.
But all right. So a fun match, a lot of gimmicky type stuff, but if you're into that, seems like a good time. There was a Bryan Danielson promo talking about how MJF can't last the hour the way he can. And the champ is contractually obligated to appear in Laredo tonight. So we will hear from MJF later. And then we get Roosh and Preston Vance jumping Claudio, Castagnoli, and Moxley in the crowd as they make their way to the ring for their match, and they go to break. So Schlong, we do get set up for the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio and John Moxley, to face off against La Facción Ingornable. That's Preston Vance or Perro Peligroso and Roosh in a tornado tag match. So it's pretty much just anything goes. I came into this like halfway, Schlong. I was still, cleaning up. But at the end of this match, we do see the Blackpool Combat Club win by submission with a chain-assisted cross armbar, the Juji Katami from Moxley on Preston Vance. And during the match, we had seen they cut to Hangman Adam Page sort of watching what was happening on a monitor. And after the match, they cut backstage and Butcher Blade and Kip Sabian attack Hangman and leave him lying there, and the Dark Order run in to sort of make the save. And let's not forget that Kip and Hangman have a match later in the night. So who knows what state Hangman will be in. But Schlong, I saw there was plenty of blood during this match. Chairs, the chain. Vance looked like he got a really good cut opened up on him. Not a shock to see Moxley open up like tissue paper at this point. But what did you think of the match? Because I didn't really see the whole thing. So what'd you think?
So first of all, I think Mox is just bleeding at this point just to fuck with people. He sees people get annoyed at the blood in AEW. He's like, "Fuck you! I'm going to bleed." And yeah, he's going to open up like tissue paper just because he keeps doing it. But Also, I think part of him does it on purpose just to say fuck you. It was a good match overall. It had a couple awkward moments here and there, as sometimes these brawls do, where like they're trying some things and they just don't work. But it was necessarily violent, which I liked. I've been highly enjoying this team of LFI. It's amazing how much Rush has just stepped into the role that was meant for Andrade and just thrived on it. He has taken everything given to him and really worked it. He fits the aggressive role real well too, so that worked. And even though they lost, Rush and Preston Vance, and I will still call him Preston Vance, looked really good. They came out looking strong because they pushed till the end, and actually so did Claudio, because Claudio had to save Mox a couple times in this match, and I thought that made Claudio look really fucking strong. Like typically you would think Mox is coming in to save Claudio, and in this one it was the other way around, and I really liked that. I really liked that Claudio was the guy to be like, no, I'm the hero. And then of course Yuta coming down to beat up the assistant, which was funny.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that happened. Yes, I did see that.
So it was a good match. I mean, it was a typical what you'd expect from a brawl.
Okay, so I'll give that a look. I got to see how that started because I didn't really see the whole thing. But Mox bleeding, Vance going, Rush, from what I saw of him in that match, definitely looked like Rush. So good stuff there. Schlong, we go next to our Jim Ross sit-down interview with Wardlow. And Jim Ross asked Wardlow, what's next? And Wardlow says that he and Samoa Joe have lots of stories, but he wants to talk about his dad and the way, as a small child, he built a strong relationship with him, but his dad left and came back later in his life when he had stage 4 cancer. And then they met when he was in hospice. And Wardlow was just starting wrestling, and his dad was able to make it to his first show. The only thing he could tell him to give him any peace was that he'd be a better man and he'd do right. And the next morning he got the call his father passed. And Wardlow had never grown his hair or his beard out, but seeing that get taken from his dad, and his dad had it, he decided to grow it out. So when Joe cut his hair, he took Wardlow's connection with his father from him. So he tells Samoa Joe to look in his eyes because he's never going to be the same man again, and he will not survive him. So Schlong, a little stretch here. I mean, I see what they're doing with the story. For me, it's a little much of a stretch. But all I know is that we're just trying to get to the TNT Championship rematch, one-on-one, Wardlow and Samoa Joe at Revolution, and I will take that however we have to get there, wherever he's angry that his ponytail got cut off.
I like this.
Really?
Shocking, I know. I like that they gave a reason for cutting the hair. That made sense.
I mean, I get it.
It came out of nowhere. You're like, why did he cut his hair? And it'd be like, oh yeah, I told him that I grew it out long and he showed pictures of his dad. He's like, my dad had really long hair and then didn't because of cancer. And you're like, oh shit, like that's personal. And then to do it makes Samoa Joe seem like such an asshole. And I love it. I'm all in. I thought this was a great personal reason to cut some hair.
I see it. I totally see it. It just, you're right. For me, I think the reason it was a stretch was it came out of nowhere. I'm like, that's it, really? Like it just
But they needed to justify why cutting the hair was anything.
I get it.
So
I don't know. Sorry. I felt something coming on, so that's why I had to take a drink there. Either way, Schlong, the big news of that whole thing is Wardlow's getting his rematch at Revolution for the TNT title.
Perfect.
We move into our next match, Josh Woods versus Mark Briscoe. So this got set up on Friday night. So Daivari and Nice are ringside with Mark Sterling for Josh Woods. Mark Briscoe's by himself. At one point, Nice and Daivari pull Briscoe out of the ring, But the Lucha Brothers come in to make the save and back them off up the ramp. Was interesting because AEW did put out a graphic saying the Lucha Brothers were going to be in action tonight. That was the action, apparently. I guess their visas were finally cleared, and that was the action. But good to see that they're back, because I had heard there were a ton of visa issues going on with wrestlers all over from Mexico. So they were able to make the save, and then it's obviously evened up. Cutting to the end of the match, Briscoe is able to win by pinfall with the Froggy Bow. Again, as we sort of mentioned before, Mark is doing his own thing, but he did have a J shirt on tonight. I think it even said Jamin Pugh on the back. And then after the match, in the camera, he was talking to Jamin and saying, doing it for you and all that kind of stuff. But listen, this match I thought was pretty excellent, and it just makes me say, I mean, I love seeing Mark Briscoe on TV. I really like seeing Josh Woods on TV, but the one thing it made me say was, why don't we see more Josh Woods? Right? Like, Josh Woods is very good in the ring. He was a pure champion for Ring of Honor, so he can wrestle. It just made me step back and be like, we should probably see some more Josh Woods.
So you're saying that Woods is the goods?
Oh, Woods is the goods. I know that.
So I'm with you. I think more Woods would be a better thing. I think he's awesome and he's really improving himself. Not that he has to, but he is even then. The match was a lot of fun. It kind of makes sense that the Lucha Brothers would come out being like, everyone's on Mark's side. So if you're going to be an asshole to him, you got to answer to us. That kind of works. And it sets up a mini feud for them, which I'm all for.
Sure.
No idea what's going on with the Trustbusters at this point, because they still exist, but Daivari's walked away from it. So I'm so confused.
And Parker Bordeaux is now part of the Mogul affiliates.
But yeah, the whole thing is confusing, but we'll make it work someday. But no, I really enjoyed this match and the way it went down. Mark's a lot of fun, and Woods is the goods.
Woods is the goods. They both looked really good in this match, so it was a lot of fun. Renee Paquette has a sit-down interview with Adam Cole. He says he feels great. He loves being back on the road with AEW, and part of him is discouraged that he's so close to the ring, but not quite there yet. And he's learned to celebrate little things, like the way he can look to the right without his eye twitching, or not having to pull over in the car because he's nauseous and thinks he's going to throw up. But he does say he feels like there are a lot of chapters to his story he hasn't been able to explore yet, and he thinks that the roster, top to bottom, has never been better. And he knows when he does come back, he has to be as prepared as possible. He doesn't want to name any names, but it's going to be good for AEW and good for Adam Cole when he does come back. And then we go to break. So again, we're just talking to Adam Cole, getting him on television. He says he feels good. Schlong, my guess is that he returns at Revolution. For against who, I have no idea. But I'm just glad that everything we've been hearing from Adam Cole has been good. And, like we talked about last week with a bunch of the tests he's had to pass, it seems like he's doing really well.
Yeah, I think he's cleared.
Sure.
They're just buying time to set up the match. But the only thing I'm going to laugh at is, what did I say here? We had 2 sit-down interviews tonight, and that's making me laugh for some reason. I can't explain why, but it's just like, couldn't you have done one of these in front of the crowd? Like, he would have got a hell of a pop standing out there, but that's a very minor nitpick. He's a very handsome individual. I will say that.
I said the same thing, Schlong. I don't remember if I said it to Mrs. Money last week or this week, but something came on with Adam Cole, and I said, his eyes are beautiful.
He's just a very handsome man, and I'm so glad that it's that he's back, because he is incredible at what he does. He's such a good professional wrestler. But I just laugh because it's like, if you had put him out in front of the Wardlow thing, should have been a sit down, because it was an intimate story and all. I think Adam Cole should have been in front of the crowd. Then again, maybe they didn't want him to fly. That was probably filmed whenever.
It could also, honestly, Schlong, I was thinking about it too. It could be that maybe they had so much live in front of the crowd. Maybe they didn't want to pop the crowd super hard for him live and then have to
That's true.
get the next reaction that we got.
That's true.
Because we moved next into MJF making his way to the ring. They went to commercial, and some of the funny stuff, Schlong, is if you were watching the picture-in-picture, he was like interacting with people around the ring and stuff, and he was just, they're talking shit, and he's sort of like, brushing them off and stuff like that. It was very fun.
Oh, there's a member in our chat. We're talking about a certain Caden who's in our chat who was interacted with by a Mr. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And hold on if I can get this to work.
I don't know what you're trying to do.
You'll see. That is Maxwell Jacob Friedman's gum.
Gross. You
spit it at him.
Ugh.
I spit it at him.
I said just let it hit the ground.
Well, then you wouldn't have the story.
Gross.
That's really funny. Caden got his gum thrown. Caden had gum thrown at him.
At least it didn't go in his hair.
Oh, Caden has hair too. That would have been a disaster.
Well, MJF does eventually, when they get back to the TV, get on the mic, and he says Danielson has no idea how much these fans loving him pisses him off. And not too long ago that all these schmucks used to be devil worshippers, but he knows these people are disgusting, fickle monsters. So he turned his back on them before they could turn on him. But let's be honest about who he is. He's the devil. These people don't love Danielson. They love who he is when he walks through the aisle, or walks down the aisle, excuse me. He's a worthless sack of trash who's been given everything he has, but that's not all of why he hates the Dragon. He hates Danielson because he has these people convinced he's better than MJF. And we probably think Brian is the best in the world too. Is it because he entertains us the best or does the coolest maneuvers or holds? Is it because he puts on 5-star bangers? Little secret, that's not why you get in the business. You get in the business for one reason, to become the world champion. Last MJF check, the only way you know you're the best in the world is if you're the man holding the championship, something Danielson has never done in AEW. And he's not an idiot. At Revolution on March 5th, Brian's going to give him everything he has. He's going to use every trick he's picked up in Mexico, the UK, and Canada. But after those 60 minutes are up, Max is going to be victorious. Max tells us if we won't take his word for it, maybe we'll listen to a man Danielson looks to as a mentor. And that's when he calls down the fallen angel Christopher Daniels. And MJF hands him the mic and asks him to tell the truth about Danielson inside the squared circle, excuse me. And Chris begins, full disclosure, that MJF paid him an obscene amount of money to denigrate Danielson on national television. There was a time when he would have happily taken the money and buried Danielson for hours on television, but that's not the man he is today, and the truth is Danielson is set to knock Friedman's dick in the dirt. He remembers the first time he was in the ring with 20-year-old Danielson. He got hit so hard he thought he was going to die, and that's when he knew Dragon was going to be great. He watched Bryan win King of the Indies in APW in 2001, which led or was inspired the creation of Ring of Honor. And Ring of Honor brought real pro wrestling to the fan base that was starved for it at the time, the same kind of fans that were ecstatic when AEW opened up 4 years ago. So if there wasn't a Ring of Honor, there might not be an AEW. There definitely wouldn't be an MJF. And the Dragon always tries to learn a new thing every match, and Daniels has watched him grow into a world champion, and he's confident that he's going to win the AEW championship. He says Danielson is exactly what Max wishes he could be, the best wrestler in the world today. MJF is just a fraud, and that's when MJF swats the mic out of his hand and screams in his face that he's the best in the world, but Daniels disagrees, tries to leave. Max pulls him back in, and that's when Max gets slapped. And Daniel tells him not to disrespect him again. So MJF, of course, kicks him in the groin and puts the salt of the earth on him. That's when Danielson runs down to make the save, and MJF runs off, the heel that he is. So Schlong, we do know that MJF is better than you and I. I love this continuing to pay people angle. And I thought it would have been great. The one thing I thought it would have been great if Daniels took the money and tucked it in the belt. Like that just would have been a great touch. Like, here's your money, put it in his belt. But that's a nitpick. I didn't mind this promo. It's just leading into this match at Revolution, and it seems like the crowd is fully fucking into it, which is great because this is a 60-minute Iron Man match. So you got to be into it.
So a couple things. One, I am highly enjoying watching the video over and over again of MJF throwing gum at Caden. It's quite entertaining. So for anyone following us, I'm retweeting it because it's just really fucking funny. Second of all, AEW likes dick in the dirt. They really like dick in the dirt. But yeah, this was a great use of Christopher Daniels to come out and be like, hey, this is why Danielson is so awesome. It's a great use of MJF basically being like, I'm just going to pay anyone. Like you said, I'm with you, but the paying people angle is so fucking funny to me. I don't know why. I just love it. Like, makes him such a dick. And yeah, I'm all for it. Like, there seems to be like, it's so odd that they seem to be like, they've presented themselves. Let me put it this way. They have presented themselves as total opposites, which is really weird because I don't think actually at the end they are. But, you know, you have MJF, who's your world champ, who doesn't want to wrestle, who's trying to avoid being, you know, all he wants to do is talk and sit back. And you have Danielson's whole thing about since he came in, which is wrestle as much as humanly possible and be awesome and not talk as much. Like he talks, but like he's all about the wrestling. So they've these two opposing forces meeting, and it's hitting, which is important. That could have gone really bad, and it's hitting because you're right. This is a 60-minute Iron Man match. If there's not some emotion in this, we were fucked. So I'm all for it. I'm still a little nervous about 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but if there's two guys you're going to put in this promotion in a 60-minute match, these are the guys, right? Like, MJF can wrestle. We know Danielson can wrestle. It should be entertaining. And it's great because this crowd was lit up all night. Like, they were loud. You know, they were into everything that was going on, and they were especially into this promo. So that's good. And it's helping the build, and you know, I'm all for this. So we'll see what happens. We've still got a few weeks to build. So we'll see where they go with this next week. I'm sure MJF is going to continue to sort of weasel his way out of things by paying people and then, you know, having to beat them up. So I'll take it. Schlong, we get Brian Cage versus Jungle Man Jack Perry. Jungle Man is clearly trying to find a way to a belt, right? He's wrestling singles matches. They pretty much put Jungle Hook to bed, and commentary back that up. And Jungle Boy winds up winning this match with a folding press, you know, sort of cutting to the end because the big stuff happened afterwards. As the Jungle Man is leaving, Christian Cage's music hits and he makes his entrance, arm still in a sling. And Jack rushes at him, but Cage sprays him with mace. And then he takes the sling off and the elbow sleeve. So Christian is good to go. And he chokes Perry on the stage before hitting the kill switch. So I'm going to say this, Schlong. Mrs. Money, 3 for 3 on boyfriend material on the show tonight. She got Claudio in the opener. She got a little taste of Tony Nese. Little taste, but she'll take the crumbs. She got him last night. And then she got Zaddy Christian making his reemergence in his purple jacket and turtleneck. So good night.
In my head, she wasn't watching for whatever reason at that moment. Like she went to get a drink or something.
Nope. She was fully invested.
Couldn't even hear it. Like in my head, she couldn't even hear it. and she just knew, and she came running.
Nope. She was sitting watching and like, oh baby. I was like, all right. Good for you.
Listen, I'm glad Christian's back. He looked good when he was wrestling. Like he still could
Yeah.
go. I hope they don't have this feud for long. That had kind of played itself out, but you never really got their match because of the injury.
Yeah.
So give them their match, let it be, and then let Christian be a heel for someone else, because I think they could use a nice mid-level heel like him doing some fun dickish things. And yeah, jungle person Jack Perry needs a shot at some title soon, or a really good feud after Christian. And I don't know what it is, but it doesn't need to be decided yet. But let's wrap this one up in a good way. Let them have their match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced that at the pay-per-view in Newark, I can't remember which one that was at this point. Whatever. I'm convinced that was probably supposed to be Christian, but because he was hurt, they sort of resurfaced Luchasaurus. My guess is they're going to have some sort of blow off at Revolution, and then we'll be past it and we'll figure out what's next. It was Full Gear. Thank you, Caden. So yeah, I think we're going to be past this pretty quickly, Schlong. And I think maybe this was why you break up Jungle Hook and make Jungle Man sort of say, like, I'm going on a singles run. I need to get solo gold, because they knew Christian was on his way back. Right. And you figure we're going to close this out now. So we'll build it to Revolution and then just end it.
Yeah. So let them have their match. Jungle has to win. And then Christian can go be his sexy older man self in another feud.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Schlong, Renee Paquette is backstage with news of the Gun Club's first title defense, a 3-way match at the pay-per-view. The two challenging teams will be crowned by a battle royal next week and a casino battle royal to be held later on. But the Acclaimed roll up, upset that the Ass Boys cheated to beat them, and say they don't back down from a fight, and it's going to be a 4-way because they're invoking their rematch clause. Something we don't see a lot of in AEW, the invoking of a rematch clause.
I didn't know it existed.
Me neither. But they say open the forbidden door. It doesn't matter. The Acclaim will knock them all on their asses and take home what is rightfully theirs. So yeah, I mean, we know that, they're saying this is the first title defense that the Guns are going to have. So they're not, I guess, going to be defending those titles before we get to the pay-per-view. Maybe they'll get a match somewhere in between, just sort of like to get them back on TV and maybe advance the storyline a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see who these other two teams will be. I know that they announced, in one of the graphics tonight, who some of the people will be in the Battle Royal next week. I think I saw the Best Friends were one of the teams, and a couple other noteworthy ones too. I just, didn't write them all down. So, I don't have a problem with it. A 4-way tag match at the pay-per-view should be fun. And they generally do a good job with their tag matches and keeping you fully invested in them. So I don't have a problem with this.
Question. Have these two teams has FTR and Lucha Bros been announced for the matches yet, or is he just speculating?
I don't remember. Let me see if I could find it real quick. The
speculation is FTR, obviously, because they come in, they beat the Ass Boys for the belts. Acclaimed never actually. The Acclaimed don't get their belts back, but you don't have them lose to FTR, okay. No, Caden's speculating he thinks they're the Jokers, which would make the most sense.
Could be.
Although the fucking pop they would get as those Jokers.
Yeah, there's some FTR stuff out there in the ether that came up this week. We could touch on it in news and notes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much weird shit going on. I could still see them giving them one last whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. It's tough because nothing's confirmed on that end, but that would be a fucking pop and a half to have them come out as the Jokers. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Because typically when they do stuff like this, like to have a casino battle royal, or casino battle royal, typically you have someone you want to well, they did say open the forbidden door. You do have someone you want to surprise people with. Like, you could have just done a normal battle royal and had it be a 3-way. So to bring in 4 means I think you have a team you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it could be FTR. When you look at the Forbidden Door, it could be Aussie Open. They've shown us good stuff when they've been on AEW television. I think you asked about the Lucha Brothers. I think they were in the graphic for the Battle Royal next week. And if they're back, then that would make total sense to get them involved in a match like that. So, but I don't know if they'd be in the title defense. That would be a pretty hefty.
I'm throwing out a team. It's absolutely not probably going to happen, but I'm throwing out random for random's sake.
Sure.
Motor City Machine Guns.
I mean, it's possible. They did
the
say
Gun Club
Door.
versus the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's a gunfight. Don't bring a knife. So, back from commercial, we do get the Elite cutting a promo. They're talking about NBA All-Star Weekend, making picks about who's going to win the game. And that's when AR Fox and Top Flight roll up, asking for another match on Friday. Don Callis tells them that they lost, everyone saw it, and the boys have other stuff going on. Dante Martin says they just like to play with balls and they don't have any of their own. And that's when Kenny says if they want to have fun on Rampage, they've got it. Matt Jackson throws a basketball at Brandon Cutler's at nuts, and he, doubles over, and that's the end of that segment. So yeah, I think that that match will rule, and there's really not much else to say. Gotta love the corporate synergy talking about the NBA game, but yeah, Schlong, that match will rule, and hopefully being on at 7:00, more people will have their eyes on it before basketball. Probably why they're choosing to run it back.
That you just said what I was going to say. Something makes me think they saw how amazing that first match was. They see they're on at 7 before the All-Star stuff. Maybe, just maybe, you throw in another awesome match to get people to see it and be like, holy shit, that's what this company's doing?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to put it on at a normal hour.
Yeah, I mean, that's a match you wanted replayed for the sake of getting, and Agent Joe calling out a point that I was going to bring up, but since he said it first, there was a House of Black flash during the promo.
I forgot about that because I did see something flash, and I tried to rewind and play it in slow-mo, but I must have missed it. Or I didn't go back far enough, and I was like, well, I know they're going into the Adam Page match, and I didn't want to miss it. So that was an intentional flash, right?
Oh yeah, it was clearly House of Black.
Okay,
so
perfect.
That fucking rules.
Now, House of Black could show up after the match. I mean, listen, the match already happened. Spoilers are out there. You could find them. We're not about, I'll say this. Most of us are not about spoiling things here, so we're not going to spoil it for you. I will overrule Ryan.
No.
Trying to spoil anything.
I have strict rules on spoilers. I do not spoil for anyone else. I like to be spoiled. There's a big difference there. I respect the desire to not be. I would never ruin it. I don't think, and this isn't a spoiler, clearly we've been doing this podcast, so I don't know. I don't think they probably show up after Rampage just because that seems like it's something you would save on Dynamite, but I'm just excited for them to okay, it is the feud we thought they were building to. That's going to be fucking awesome.
It needs to be. It certainly needs to be. I think that, again, in my opinion, that's where they were going to go had they not had Brawl Out. It just seemed like that's where it was leading. So I'm ready for it. But, I'm looking forward to this match on Friday night. The first one was so good. This one will be awesome. All right, moving on from this, we get Hangman Adam Page versus Kip Sabian. Adam Page wins by pinfall with the buckshot lariat. Kip Sabian looked good during this match. But really, the important things come after the match. Blackpool Combat Club, minus Danielson, of course, come to the ring. And Moxley says he knows Hangman thinks they have unfinished business, but he got his ass pinned last time. And he has some respect for Page, but no fear. And he's got his number, and there's no chance he will ever beat Mox again, so please let it go. And Page says he's not happy with their last match's result. He doesn't think Moxley is either. John says he had hoped he'd have some friends to talk him into a smart decision, but the emo cowboy doesn't have any friends. No, well, that's when the Dark Order enters. And Uno points out that they've had Page's back the last 2 years, and Hangman's trying to get him to stop, but Uno swats him away, and he tells him to leave. When Page tells him to leave. So Uno's had enough, and they've heard John Moxley talk about talk, and Evil Uno's not afraid of him. And that's when Uno sort of pie faces Mox, shoves him in the face. And they go forehead to forehead. Hangman tells his friend to back up. And Moxley grabs the mic and challenges Hangman to a Texas death match at Revolution, looking right past Evil Uno. And they did mention that Uno will have a match against Moxley next week. So Schlong, they're starting to really fill up they're filling up this card for Revolution. We now have a Texas death match, Hangman Adam Page and Moxley. This should be the blow off.
So, couple things. We can't just gloss over that I think Kip Sabian had an excellent match against Hangman.
Absolutely.
And Kip in the cowboy hat and bringing it up again. Just saying. Hit the spot for me. Kip's amazing.
Quick question. Is that gimmick infringement because you had a small cowboy hat and also looked very good in it?
No, because he's Kip. He can get away with what he wants to.
All right.
He likes Philly teams. I give him the go. Then the Mox saying, I have no fear for you of you. That was great. Like such a dick of a line to be like, yeah, I respect you. I'm not afraid of you at all. I saw Kate in the chat, and he was there tonight, which is why saying that the Dark Order got no reaction, which kind of came across on TV. I will say there is a reason, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but this is just my guess, because it's how I felt until they delivered the promo. I love the Dark Order. It's big, not just because we clearly have similar names. Some would say they stole ours, but love them for many reasons. I liked the comedic angle. I like the serious angle. I like everything they represent. I want them to be better than they are in terms of better presentation, but they haven't been presented well. So I think when they came out, people were like, oh, joy, what are they like? This is just going to be bad. And then to have what they had happen, Evil Uno nailed that fucking promo.
Yeah, he did.
And made it a thing. And it was the first time in a year that the Dark Order look serious, look like, oh my God, this is the Dark Order we want. Well, no, because they look good in the trios tournament, but since then, this is the first time where you're like, holy shit, this is the Dark Order I want. So I am super excited for what this means for them, even if it's getting them away from, I don't want them away from Hangman, but even if it's getting them away from Hangman, that is what I want, because they deserve better. They need to capitalize. So you have Evil Uno come out and deliver this also promo. They're going to, whatever way they line this up, that Evil Uno is not beating Mox in a match, or they're not beating it. But I would have either Silver and Reynolds beat, Cesaro, Claudio, and Yuta in a match, or I'd have them win in a trios match. Give the Dark Order the win. Start the rebuild.
So this is my only problem. My only problem is that there needs to be some sort of end game here with Hangman and the Dark Order, because I called it last week, although I walked it back a little bit. I was like, I don't want to see a retread of a Hangman thing, like he doesn't have any friends and he's on his own and blah blah blah. They are retreading this where he's saying to them, I don't need you, or I don't want you, or go, be quiet. So I think what has to happen here is the payoff needs to be, because we saw that again tonight, right? Like he's telling them, go, like, I don't, go, I got it, whatever, blah. The payoff here in my mind has to be he pulls this again and they have to turn on him and be like, we've been here for you. Fuck you. We're done. They have to push him out. That has to be the ultimate end. That's the split. And then Dark Order can go on and do their own thing. I think that's how you sort of get them onto their own thing, is that they sort of realize, like, man, we've been here for you. You don't want anything to do with us. Fuck off. And then they have their own confidence and they can do it on their own. I think that's ultimately, in my opinion, what needs to happen. But I think we need to sort of wrap this up some way, because they're doing this again. And I just don't want to see them retreading these same stories. That's my only beef. It's my only beef. I thought the promo was delivered well by Uno. I love the pie face. I love the forehead to forehead. It was great seeing Johnny Hungy be like, am I really going to go up and square up against Cesaro? Because that looked funny. But
One
yeah.
tall bald man, one short little bald man.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, that's my only thing, Schlong. I think they need a definitive end to this Hangman Dark Order story.
Correct. I will say the definitive end does not necessarily have to be I like yours, probably the better way of like having it be that way. But if you don't want to go that for whatever reason, you want to keep everyone face, and having them split like that would, in theory, not allow that. You could have an acrimonious split where they're just like, listen, man, clearly just not for this. Go back. We love you, but you're not for this, and we have to be us. All of this should result in Stu returning.
I mean, Stu coming back would be fucking great. But we'll see. There needs to be an end. This needs to end. I think we're going to get there. So we'll see what happens. Schlong, there is a Jericho Appreciation Society interview backstage. Jericho says Starks got lucky. He's not giving him another match because he's not at his level. But Garcia will give him another match because he's sick of him. He's sick of him saying it's his time, and he's going to expose Starks as an absolute fraud. My favorite part of this, Schlong, much like every JAS interview, if you are not watching Daddy Magic during these promos, even when he's not saying anything or the focal point, you're really fucking up where you're what you're watching, because his expressions are insane the whole time. Yeah, I mean, we're just building to the hype on Friday, right? And that should be a fun match. Garcia versus Starks. And then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
We do go to commercial and come back with the Firm being interviewed backstage, and Stokely Hathaway is injured, claiming Hook should be fired, and he hopes that AEW management has good news for him by the end of the night. Ethan Page and Matt Hardy ask why he wasn't at the party they threw him last night, and they bicker, but Tony interrupts, Shivani interrupts to inform them Hook has been suspended pending investigation, and they were happy to hear that. So Schlong, Hook is being investigated, for this injury. I did love how Stokely said they've been meeting with different people.
Stark, Jesse Jackson.
That's right.
Stoke was fucking amazing. And then doing the fist bump at the end with the cast. I'm like, no. Like, this was perfect.
Exactly what it needed to be. We're probably going to see something happen at Revolution with Hook, right? And that'll be that. So we'll see. Schlong, we're into the main event of the night, and I honestly did not know this was going to be the main event. Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho versus Toni Storm. So the story here again is that Ruby Soho is just stuck in the middle of sort of these two sides of the aisle fighting over her. The imports from the WWE, who are trying to get Ruby to side with them, and the AEW quote unquote originals, who say, Ruby should side with them because she's really like about AEW, blah, blah, blah. So when the match starts, Ruby's just sort of there watching, and she gets the opportunity to sort of get to both, and she's just trying to win this match. Basically, cutting to the end here, Tony Storm goes for a hip attack in the corner on Britt Baker. And before Britt Baker can get pinned by Tony, Ruby throws Tony out of the ring into Saraya and is able to steal the pin. So Ruby Soho does win by pinfall with a lateral press, thanks to the hip attack. And post-match, Saraya confronts Ruby. She gets screamed at for her trouble. Jamie Hayter comes into the ring and jaws at them both before going to check it on Britt Baker. Ruby doesn't make any definitive, choice here tonight. I thought maybe we'd get something. Figured we wouldn't. And Ruby's just sort of like making a belt motion, like maybe she's going to be the next one for Jamie Hayter. So Schlong, Ruby does make a case for a title shot. She did win a 3-way match here against top competitors in the women's division. Maybe Ruby Soho fights Jamie Hayter at Revolution for the title. It's viable now.
It is viable now. Now, I know some people are upset because they thought Ruby was going to make a choice, and she clearly, quote unquote, didn't make a choice. Though I feel like she did. Her choice was Ruby.
Yeah.
She's
bet on herself.
Yeah. I like this story. I know not everyone's bought in. I really enjoy it. Saraya is not everyone's cup of tea in the ring, but I don't mind. I think she's enough of a character to get around that. So I really like this, and I like that Ruby is a centerpiece. She came in as a big signing. Not a lot was done with her. There was like an initial push and then nothing. So this has been a nice resurgence for her because I think she can wrestle. I think she can talk. I think it's a great thing, and I had a lot of fun with this. I think the spray paint thing, it's an old tried and true wrestling method, so keep going with it. And I've never seen someone spray paint their ass to do a hip attack, so that was weird. But I laughed, and that was important to me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this story at all because it is a long story that they're telling, right? And I think eventually they do a big sort of gang war blow off like a Women's Blood and Guts or something like that. But I don't think we're getting it at the pay-per-view. I think we're just going to get a singles, title match. Maybe you get, something with Britt and Saraya, or not Saraya, with Britt and Tony Storm again. Who knows? But I'm enjoying sort of watching the story play out, which is nice to say about the women's division because we don't always feel that way. So, and also nice to see them in the main event tonight.
100%. They are presenting this as a big story, and it feels like a big story. They just need to continue going forward, and it won't always be for everyone, but that's with anything. At least at this point, if it's not for you, it's not because they're not giving the time. It's not because it's bad matches. It's just because it's just not for you, because I'm really enjoying it. I think this is great.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where the story goes. They're building nicely to Revolution after a lot of announcements tonight. And, there are still a few weeks to go. So we've got Rampage at 7 p.m. on Friday. That looks like it's going to be a good card. They taped it tonight. So if you want to find spoilers, I'm sure they're going to be out there. But it is at 7 p.m. on Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, for those who want to see the show. And Schlong, there was a bit of news this week in AEW, so let's touch on some of those things before we wrap things up. Schlong, if you recall last week, travel back in time, MJF cut a promo confirming that he was like the worst person ever in the history of the world because he had gotten into a car accident while driving his Camaro in high school when his girlfriend was giving him a beej. And that led to a lot of people apparently contacting police because he essentially confessed to a felony live on television. So there was apparently, news that police received over 300 phone calls following the MJF promo on Dynamite. The Nassau Police Department reported they were flooded with over 300 phone calls following the promo. Police released a statement saying they will be investigating the claims, but believe it was due to a fictional story on a television show. And they did, the Wrestling Observer Live's Brian Alvarez confirmed that there is truth to the claim that was made. He said, I don't know if it was actually over 300, but it's absolutely 100% that they got a bunch of phone calls. That's not a joke. A bunch of fans legitimately called the Nassau Police Department to report MJF. Mark Raimondi of ESPN also said he had heard from several people who have said there's truth to the original story. So Schlong, people still believe in what they're seeing in wrestling.
So my guess is that most of those calls were from a Max, a Maxwell, a Maximus, just trying to hype up his own story.
Could be, but it's still funny when those things do happen. Schlong, something else that broke is that AEW and ESPN agreed to international broadcasts. I'm sorry. The story was that ESPN announced it secured exclusive broadcast rights to top American professional wrestling promotion, All Elite Wrestling, bringing premium matches and entertainment to ESPN subscribers in Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands starting on February 16th. It is that's pretty big news, Schlong, because it's ESPN, and I believe it was sort of announced that that Disney said that ESPN was sort of going to be operating on its own. So pro wrestling back on ESPN, although not in the United States, will be in the Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island market. So that's good, and who knows what that might hold for the future of AEW and ESPN here in America.
People like wrestling, apparently.
They do. We mentioned Paul White, get the BS out, before, and apparently he is eyeing a return to the ring in March. He did an interview with Metro UK, and he explained, like why we shouldn't have to wait too long before we see him wrestling in the ring again. He said he'd experienced a couple of injury setbacks recently, and he had one of his knees replaced last August, but the road ahead looks clear. He said, the knee was bad for 12 years, so it could have gone any day. It's like kind of like that tire on your car that you should change but keep driving anyway. But we're good now, and hopefully we'll be back in the ring in March. Everything's on schedule, so we're looking good. Paul White looking like he's sort of working his way back. Now, I know, we don't want to see him like every day in the ring, and that's fine. But, good to see that he is feeling well and making his way back.
Yeah, good for him.
Knee replacement is nothing to joke about. That's a big deal.
He almost shouldn't wrestle because of it.
Let's see. Some news about Tony Khan, talking about WWE. He appeared on the Dan Le Batard show, and sort of talked about his vision of sort of the Monday Night War, competing with the WWE. He told Le Batard and his crew about two high-profile business clashes he's had with the WWE over the past couple of years. One was regarding flirting with New Japan, and the other were after Triple H took control of the WWE creative last year, that his team reached out to former WWE wrestlers that were currently under contract to AEW. Tony said he believes they're good for business. Tony said, again, I don't know if these things have happened. I only know that people have come to me and alleged. but I do know that it's a real war between AEW and WWE, and for the fans, the fans are interested in it, and that was part of the original business model of AEW. Was I knew wrestling fans, frankly, are interested in wrestling free agency and wrestling wars, and I believe we could create a free agent market that is definitely a real thing now, and that would be a big part of the story. I think wrestling fans at the end of the day appreciate that a lot. Of what happens in wrestling shows is sometimes story, and that's why people like watching these shows. They like the stories and the exciting matches, and especially the combination of the two when the stories lead to exciting matches and vice versa. Now, what's interesting is that the story that is the most real, the most intense, and the most hatred in all of pro wrestling is that between the two wrestling promotions. I think we truly hate each other, and I think it makes for really exciting TV, and it makes for an exciting wrestling war. So yeah, so Tony Khan's all for a wrestling war, and I would have to agree, Schlong. It does make things better for business overall for any promotion, right? When you give people a reason to get invested, whether it's for a war or free agency, not knowing where people are going to show up, you're going to be more interested in checking it all out, right? Like that's part of the deal.
So, yes, you're right. You're 100% right on that. I just hate the term. Like, oh, this is a real wrestling war. Just you're two companies that are competing. Get over it.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly like pumping it up, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you're right. Like, it is better for them to have competition and uh have multiple companies offer out there trying to one up one another, but it's just the way it sounds just sounds so cheesy.
I mean, of course, but that's what it's known now, right? The Monday Night Wars, they call them the Wednesday Night Wars when they were competing. I mean, this is all for the fans of the Dan Le Batard show, right? Who are probably not like super duper pro wrestling fans, but they're fans of like regular pro sports, right? So you got to sort of pump it up and talk it up. But
yeah.
Schlong, the first AEW House Rules non-televised live event, the house show, is on March 18th in Dayton, Ohio, a suburb of Troy, Ohio. And recently, Jeff Jarrett spoke to the Under the Ring podcast about the plans that AEW has for their house shows. He said it's going to be a crawl, walk, run process. I believe the strategic mindset is absorb as much information as we can, as quick as we can, to truly make, a plan, but there's no perfect plan. We're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have our hits and our misses, but coming out of the gate, there was a report online about how many shows WWE has reduced their non-televised live events, and we haven't been in the market since the launch of AEW. So I think the timing's good. I think the day that our television show airs live on Wednesdays kind of dovetails into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I think we're going to start slow and start picking up the pace and kind of figure out, eliminate the negative and accentuate the positive and keep progressing. But I could not be more excited because it's a real growth industry, real growth opportunity. That's what the real essence of it is. I was born and raised here in Nashville, and there's artists who come to town that move to town and literally spend their life savings to move here, write songs, try to be an artist. But their goal is to get out on the road and play their music. In the wrestling industry, obviously the TV is the utmost importance and our pay-per-view weekends. But at the end of the day, getting out, and yes, it's a profit center. It's also a marketing initiative. Also, it is how you really hone your craft. But there's so much upside to it. For me, to be blessed to have a part of it, I'm pumped in so many ways. At this stage of my career, when I look back at it, what an opportunity that's in front of all of us. The Khan family launched AEW. It's up and running and widely successful. And now here come the live events right up my alley. So again, he sees it as an upside. I mean, people are getting back out to live events. They don't hit all of these smaller markets, so it sort of makes sense. They have had some issues with ticket sales last year, but that was in part due to running the same markets repeatedly. So we'll see what happens once they start to get away with that. But if they avoid that, it could be, that there is demand for more shows for AEW in some of those other markets. So sounds like Schlong, Jarrett's really excited about this, and he wants to be active, really active and working in this. So probably going to see him come off of TV a little bit.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's going to be small markets that are never going to get live. So if you want to give them live, give them live. The thing is that cracks me up about ROH is poor Impact.
Yeah.
They're just another thing that's going to hurt their people's ability to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Impact, when they killed the Twitch deal, that's really what I think was the nail to sort of continue to drive them further and further down the chain. You know what I mean? Like, Impact could be a huge player, but dude, the fact that they put it on YouTube, even if it's for like $1, it's just not the same as Twitch. You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I'm with you. Well, there's a couple things, and I'm completely with you. One, that's gonna sound weird, but like people don't expect to pay for YouTube. They just don't. So to be even $1, it's like you've already changed what people expect out of YouTube. Two, you're right. The Twitch thing really hurt. They should have figured out a way to monetize people live streaming along with them, because that was something people like to. And I guarantee they could have worked something out with Twitch, being like, "Hey, we need some kind of share of like, if this many people, we either need the statistics to go to our advertisers, or we need something like you." They were big enough; they could have worked that out. So to not do that, yeah, I think leaving Twitch really hurt them. They needed to be the most accessible brand, and they even though YouTube is extremely accessible, I think they went a step to make it less so, and that's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens to Impact. They've been doing what they need to do. It's just they don't have the eyes on the product. I mean, look, even MLW has a TV deal now where you're in most cable markets on Reels. I mean, and Reels is starting to pick up because they've got, what is it, On Patrol Live, which was basically live PD, so people are tuning into Reels. I watch the live PD show on Friday and Saturdays when there's nothing else on to watch. It's just something to have on. I can't tell you how much promotion they do for MLW. Every commercial break, there's a commercial for MLW. It's just interesting to see, like, how could Impact not find any way into more homes? It just is wild.
Yeah, it's if you're gonna go YouTube, be free. I would have stayed on Twitch. Truthfully, this is gonna sound stupid. They should have embraced more of a streamer lifestyle. They should have reached out and gotten that and connected, and they didn't. And halfway stuff just doesn't work.
Totally true, Schlong. Totally true. Some news that broke yesterday is that while we don't know what Thunder Rosa's in-ring status is, she did share some news about another position she's taking in AEW. She said, "Exciting news, fans. While my recovery continues, I'll join AEW as a Spanish commentator and on-screen personality. I'm thrilled to be able to serve Spanish-speaking fans in this unique way. Health is a journey with ups and downs. Meanwhile, I'll see you from the booth." So, Schlong, I don't know what it means to be an on-screen personality. It's an interesting statement, but there really hasn't been any extensive word on what her sort of health status is. But it seems like they're going to be working her back into television in some way. So maybe she's not too far off, but she'll at least be in people's minds from the Spanish commentary booth.
Yeah, I mean, she clearly isn't. Yeah, I think this is a way to get her back into things without before she's can go full blown wrestling, and I think that makes sense. There's reports that she did there was like a meeting held to kind of clean a slate with her since she did have some issues with people in the back. I think they are preparing for her in ring return. I just think she's not healthy enough for it yet, so they're just trying to make way for it.
Yeah, and what better way to do it, right, than put her at commentary, right? And then she'll eventually work her way back and come off of commentary, So,
yeah.
And Schlong, in the big news, as we alluded to earlier, we do have some word on Ring of Honor about what is going to be happening with television and some of the other stuff. So Tony Khan was on Busted Open this morning, February 15th. And he said there's going to be a taping that takes place Saturday, February 25th and Sunday, February 26th at Universal Studios, where the company holds semi-regular tapings for Dark. And tickets will go on sale tomorrow. He didn't reveal when the material filmed in Orlando would be added to Honor Club, but that was later sort of revealed in an interview with Sports Illustrated. I believe they said it will begin airing, yes, on Thursday, March 2nd. So we will get a Ring of Honor show starting Thursday, March 2nd through the Honor Club. And like we said, they're going to be taping for those here at the end of February. So if you're in the Orlando area, get some tickets, show up to the show. Ring of Honor is a lot of fun. It was fun before TK owned it, but now it's just, there's all this talent crossover and stuff like that. We're probably going to see a lot of pullbacks from that, but it'll be good.
Should have done it. Should have done it in Philly.
Listen, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. You could probably do it from the old ECW arena. And maybe they will in time, but they at least have this in place, right? That's got to be why they're continuing to do it, or they're going to do it at Universal, because they've got this deal in place and they have the space.
Yeah, 100% why. It makes more sense to do it there. I'm biased.
Of course. I mean, I think it'd be better in Philly too.
Yeah, something I can attend.
But there you go, folks. Ring of Honor, 2 tapings, the 25th and 26th, and then the first television show will be on Honor Club March 2nd. So if you're not part of Honor Club, get up on your Honor Club. I plan to do it, Schlong. I just haven't done it yet. Now that they say TV's coming, I got to do it. But I want to go back to the catalog anyway. There's so much good stuff in their library. I know they're missing a few things, but I'm definitely interested in getting the Honor Club. I'll start it up for March.
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I want to go through the catalog, but truthfully, I'm there for the new wrestling, so I bought it. I'm ready.
Nice. And Schlong, that's it. So a lot of news bites from the week. A good Dynamite show tonight. Looks like a good Rampage coming up on Friday, and then next week they're already lining up a good card for the Wednesday night show. And next Wednesday will be our centennial episode 100. Pretty sure Matthew will be here. Millionaire Matt, Lumberjack Matt, whatever you know him as, Shining Wizards Matt will be here next Wednesday with us. So tune in. We should have Kate next week as well. Hopefully she doesn't big time us. But
who knows what random guests will appear?
Oh boy. Schlong, it's something we should talk about. If we do want to have some guests on, we can slot them in. We can have some guests in. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Captain will be back in port.
I hear his ship will be around, so maybe we can get him on, a day on. What is it? On excursion. We can get him on an excursion.
He'll be on leave. He'll have shore leave that day.
Yeah, there you go.
So tune in to us next week. But Schlong, why don't you tell the people where they can follow you and interact with you when you're not here?
Every Monday and Tuesday, I am live tweeting Dark and Dark Elevation from Mark Order Pod, and I'm there the rest of the week, ready to interact. Just don't be a dick.
So don't be a dick. Follow us at Mark Order Pod on Twitter. In fact, at Mark Order Pod on all our social accounts is what we go by. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, if people are still using Facebook. YouTube, all the places. Give us a follow. We appreciate those who do follow us. And you can go to our link tree if you're, on any of those platforms and not connected to the other ones. We have links to all those places. We also have a link to get some free stickers. So just click that button. Give us your full name, your email, your full mailing address in the country you live in, and then we will send you out some free Mark Order Podcast stickers to anywhere you live in the world. The other thing you could do if you're so inclined is you could click the button to visit our Pro Wrestling Tees store and pick up a t-shirt. You could also just head over to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod or prowrestlingtees.com and then search for Mark Order Podcast. We should pop right up. We've got 4 shirts in the store, 2 front prints, 2 double-sided prints. If you would like to spend some dollars on us that will then turn around and then pour back into this show, we greatly appreciate it. And I do make phone calls to people who buy shirts. A little backlogged right now. I am calling you, but I will call you if you order a shirt to personally thank you for supporting the Mark Order Podcast.
I will not.
That's fine. I will. You don't need to hear from the other schlubs on this show. I'll give you a call and say thank you. We also want to thank everybody who watched along with us tonight. Caden, Cabbage Sensei checked in, Jesse Ozog, Asian Joe, the Broadcast, part of the Shining Wizards Network, was checking us out tonight. Sloanamite was in here. We saw her jump in a couple times. Eric Freeds, Rob Humphrey. Thank you all to those who watched and chatted along. We appreciate you. To those who are listening in podcast form, we love you too. Thank you for listening. You can find us anywhere you find your podcast. So if you are listening, make sure you rate, subscribe, rate, review. That stuff does help us on the podcast. If you've never watched us in podcast form or in video form, head over to YouTube and we have all of our videos available in the archives. If you do stop over to the YouTube, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, because you also get alerts, I think, to when our live broadcasts are going to happen. But you know that every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m., we come to you live after Dynamite to capture everything that happened in the week of AEW. Schlong, a pleasure having you on a surprise 2 live crew edition of the Mark Order Podcast, our go home to episode 100. So we suggest you guys tune in next week. I'm going to be completely honest with you people. We don't have anything concrete planned for episode 100, but Ryan saying there may be some guests. You should probably fucking tune in to episode 100 in video format, or if you listen in podcast, go back and watch in video format, because it'll probably be a doozy next week with a full house and some surprise guests. So stay tuned. Thank you all for listening. Ryan, love you, pal. Sorry about the Eagles, but we're glad you're in good spirits.
Shit happens. Life goes on.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.